Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN WhatIf 2.0, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku and Todoroki had international internships? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Shudo chews his cold soba silently, avoiding his father's stare over the table. Enji has been increasingly present for breakfast and dinner, especially dinner, and it's still weird, although it's getting better. Rei sits by his side, also eating silently, looking at peace. Sometimes Enji would pile food onto her plate. "You have to eat more, to regain your strength," he'd fuss, and she'd smile at him. A year ago, this would be unfathomable. It kind of still is. The therapist Enji goes to must be a miracle worker, because he hasn't snapped at his family in months. The Todoroki family has been eating dinner together for almost 2 months now. Shudo doesn't want to be the cause of their relapse. Well, technically, it would be Enji's fault if he gets angry that Shudo ranked 3rd on this year's sports festival. Shudo. Here we go. Shudo braces for impact, looking up slowly from his bowl. Heterochromatic eyes meets burning blues. The rest of the table stops eating. His sister is especially tense. His father sets down his chopsticks. "I saw your performance in the sports festival," he says. "It's dash." He pauses. He opens his mouth to say something but vaguely shrugs it off. "Good job." A string of soba slides off Shudo's slack grip. His father isn't finished. "You handle ice better than most pros. But your left side needs a lot of work." "I know," Shudo quickly says, figuring the point of the conversation. "I'll just intern with you again." Unexpectedly, Endeavor shakes his head. "No." "What?" "I've talked to your teacher. The Maritime Division of the International Hero Association owes me a couple of favors. I'm calling in one," he says while picking up his food again, like Shudo getting sent to work overseas isn't a big deal. Shudo waits out the chews and swallow. "You'll work under the earth-shaking hero, Whitebeard. We just talked and he suggested one of his top men to supervise you." "So you're just sending him away?" Natsuo snaps, breaking the quiet stalemate between him and Enji he has kept up for months. The flame hero, Fire Fist, is a young, up-and-coming pro 2 years fresh out of school, yet his control over fire rivals mine. You can learn a thing or two from him. "But you can't just, Mom." Rei looks thoughtful. "Whitebeard is a good man. It'll be great experience for Shudo." Natsuo gapes, speechless. Shudo would mirror him if his mind isn't running, zooming 100 miles every millisecond. No pyrokinesis training with his father. A month of freedom, away from him but also from school, the rest of his family and his friends. Meeting international heroes, a completely different level than their local force, evident by Endeavor's admittance of a rookie having a similar level of control to their #1 hero. A different terrain with different people, different food and, oh god, perhaps different language too? Shudo takes a few deep breaths. "I'm grateful," he finally says. Enji nods, pleased. "Good. Pack your bags, you'll be on your way next Monday." Todoroki-kun greets bright freckled cheeks with wild green hair as soon as Shudo steps inside the classroom, which isn't in any way a surprise, but still not something that happens every day. Midoriya. Shudo sits on his chair anyway. All Might's apprentice hijacks the seat in front of him and starts talking wildly. "I saw Endeavor in the International Hero Conference yesterday." Shudo blinks. "So there was a conference?" All Might came too. Not as an official hero of course since he's retired and all, but to see an old friend, and he brought me along. There's so many heroes, more than I knew about, with so many amazing quirks. He gestures with his hands, the cumulation of over a year being best friends with Ida. All Might talk to Garp the Fist. He's not really a hero but he's a big shot US Marine and is called a hero anyway. His quirk is some kind of super strength, I think, since he mentioned chucking cannonballs with his bare hands. The strength that's needed to do that dash. Midoriya. He's a vice admiral but he's mainly training new recruits now. All Might introduced me to him. He said I reminded him of someone and said I could use some shaping up. Then All Might brought up the sports festival and our internship and he finally takes a breath, laughing lightly. I guess I'm interning at the U.S. Marine headquarters this year. So you're going overseas too, says Shudo, eyes wide. Yeah. I can't wait. His big eyes squint and focus on Shudo, then yells, Todoroki-kun, you got an international internship too? That gets the whole class attention, every head turning to Shudo's table in the corner of the room, like predators spotting their prey. One predator is particularly vicious, eyes screaming bloody murder though he just stepped into the classroom. What do you mean about you and half, Deku? Compared to their first year, Bakugo has mellowed out, if only slightly. He works better with others and is now adept at rescues, but still stomps everywhere he goes and seems perpetually angry. Shudo should really ask his father to refer Bakugo his therapist. We'll discuss that in homeroom today actually, drawls Aizawa, as always zipping down his cocoon out of nowhere. Class A's vigilance is nothing to the stealth of a pro underground hero. Get back to your seats. We're going to talk about your internships. Bakugo heads to his chair with a "T-seach," while Midoriya apologizes profusely to Hagakure who has been standing next to her seat all this time. Shudo looks past her invisible head to Aizawa, a stack of papers in his hand. Here's the list of agencies who requested you. Pass it on. He hands over half to Shinso, who always sits in front ready and eager to learn ever since he transferred into their hero class, and half to Kirishima, who has been banned from sitting in the back due to deplorable grades. Excitement bubbles up throughout the class, eagerly reading their prospects, except for Shudo, who received nothing. Please think about where you want to intern in carefully before submitting your form at the end of this week. Except for Midoriya and Todoroki. A quick glance to the right tells Shudo that Midoriya didn't get his list either, whose paperwork has been taken care of. Sensei. Bakugo wastes no time in raising his hand and yells away, how come Deku and Icy Hot got special privileges? Their teacher sighs. Yesterday evening, All Might informed me that his friend from the US is interested in taking Midoriya under his wing. All Might also said that Endeavor has secured Todoroki an internship with Fire Fist, Aizawa says. He fixes both students a red-eyed glare. I wasn't happy with it, I'm still not. Even though we did in a good chunk of the League of Villains at the end of last year, we're still big targets and are under constant threat. I don't want you where I couldn't reach you. A warm feeling sweeps through the whole class. Eraserhead cares so much for them. Shudo hears Hagakure trying and failing to hide her sniffles. Aizawa closes his eyes for a few moments before continuing. But that's irrational. By going overseas, you'll not only be beyond my reach, but also the League of Villains. What's most rational as a student is to search for as much knowledge as possible, and there's much to learn in a foreign land. So I let All Might submit your paperworks. Bakugo raises his hand again, but this time, Yaoyorozu does it too and their teacher nods at her to talk before he could shout out his protests. Yaoyorozu straightens, hands folded on her desk with poise. Sensei, is there any way we, the other students, can also acquire international internships? Yeah, Sensei. Mina chimes in. Man, it's really not fair if only Midoriya and Todoroki gets to do it, Kaminari says. A slew of agreements ripples through the class. Their blonde hothead is especially eager. Shudo is half interested and half just wants homeroom to be over. When the class settles down, Aizawa opens his mouth. You'll have to take it up with another teacher. I don't work much with international heroes, so I can't refer you. But if you can find yourselves one before the end of the week, you can submit your form as normal. Shudo's classmates' faces brighten up with excited non-whispers. Aizawa gives up in retaining any sense of order and goes back into his cocoon. Many of the class crowd around Midoriya, who happily answers every curiosity they have that he can answer. Hey Todoroki, how did you get your internship? Jiru, who sits on his right, asks. Shudo stares at her blankly. My father. Oh, never mind. She turns around, conversation over. No one else bothers him after. Shudo smiles, can't help but feeling slightly amused. He drowns out the noise and takes out his notebook instead. There's a lot of things he should plan for, since it's a 1-month-long internship. He scribbles checklists from his hero suit to his trusty toothbrush. He hopes his one suitcase would suffice. In the end, his sister has packed his bags before Shudo could even begin gathering his sweatshirts. Fuyumine. Shudo stares pointedly at his one suitcase, then back at her. His sister looks up from pouring pancake batter, face only slightly guilty. I'm just so excited for you. Shudo sighs, but he isn't unhappy. Her sister meddles, but it's not like he has any particular things he wants to bring anyway. So he smiles. Thanks. She opens her arms, face still bright. Come here, Shudo. Shudo is confused, but walks into the hug anyway. His sister's arms wraps tightly. She buries her face in his uniform lapels. Shudo can feel wetness seeping into the fabric. I'm just going to miss you. She sniffles. She wipes her tears when she straightens up, her smile still wide on her face. Go do your best out there. I'll go beyond, Shudo promises, plus ultra. Good. She pats his arms twice before releasing him. Make sure to say goodbye to Mom, Natsuo. She bites her lips. And also Dad, all right? Shudo waves her off. Yeah. He turns around, picking up his suitcase and a rice ball his mother made earlier that morning. He has already said goodbye to her. Despite having an ice quirk, her hug is also very warm. Don't freeze the stove if it catches on fire, he shouts before he's out the door. Last time, the cleanup hadn't been pretty. Shudo hears his sister fumbles inside, puts on his shoes and starts walking resolutely to the train station. It is the day. Since the day he reveals his internship supervisor, Midoriya has been spamming him, unprompted, with his research of Fire Fist, so much that Shudo doesn't have to lift a finger looking up anything on his own. Fire Fist is Brazilian, but his father is half Japanese, which gives Shudo some hope that they would have a common tongue. By some twist of fate, Midoriya's supervisor, Garp the Fist, turns out to be Fire Fist's grandfather. It's said that Garp trained him in his childhood, before he enrolled into Brazil's biggest hero academy. He graduated top of his year, then freelanced for a while, which, Midoriya explained to him, is a totally more common thing for fresh graduates to do in some foreign countries. He made quite a name for himself, hailed as young, handsome, kind and powerful, according to the online articles Midoriya found, becoming a local sensation. Then, after 100 days of recruitment, as quoted from Whitebeard's annual press conference 2 years ago, Fire Fist joined the ranks of the gargantuan but tight-knit Whitebeard International Hero Agency. A year later, he was named 2nd Division Commander. He has hundreds of men working under him, commanding his own ship and heads an office in Batarilla. Even comparing to Shudo's father's partner Hawks, Fire Fist's career track is unheard of. Still not as awesome as All Might's single awe-inspiring campaign. Shudo agrees with Midoriya on this, but very, very impressive nonetheless. Shudo finishes off his rice ball as he nears the station. It's still a couple ways left, but he has plenty of time. The train would take him to the Bay Area, unlike Midoriya's crack of dawn bus to the airport. Kirishima and Uraraka had set out even earlier. Shudo was a bit surprised that out of everyone else in their class, these two were the ones who managed to get themselves internships overseas. Forget pulling strings, the week-short deadline wasn't nearly enough for most to even contact their connections. Kirishima and Uraraka took the search into their own hands, surfing the web and coincidentally applying for the same hero agency, based in London. A riot almost broke out in class when their acceptance email arrived the morning of the day their forms needed to be submitted. Bakugo wasn't happy, but he surprisingly got over it quickly. Though Shudo has a weird feeling Bakugo's Plan B choice would actually suit him perfectly, the half-cold, half-hot boy doesn't actually know what to think of it. Two unstoppable forces meeting each other. It's frightening to imagine how well it would go. Never in Shudo's wildest dreams would he consider Bakugo interning at Endeavor Hero Agency, of all places. Alas, reality is often stranger than fiction. Shudo sleeps on the train. The first-class seat his father booked for him is comfortable, so he might as well put it to good use. He is woken by the train stopping. Shudo gathers his things and follows the other passengers out. Immediately, he is greeted by the fishy smell of the fisher's port. Shudo stares out in wonder. He has been to the beach plenty of times before, but never has he been to a harbor, where there's only ships and then water as far as the eye could see. There's a slight skip in his steps as he walks to the meeting spot. He feels the salt in every breeze. Curry, curry, he murmurs, passing by establishment after establishment. His father told him he would find his contact in a small tavern. He stops in front of a hole-in-the-wall bar, so slight that he almost walked straight past it. A rusty sign rests on top of the door. Shudo pushes it inside. "Welcome to Curry," greets a little girl with purple hair and a beaming smile. She wears a green kimono that's intricately patterned, but has seen better days. Shudo raises one hand awkwardly. Hello." The girl keeps smiling expectantly. Shudo looks at his feet. A man laughs from the stools. When he speaks, there's a slight accent. "You must be Shudo Todoroki. I'd know that two-toned hair anywhere." Shudo reaches up to grasp his hair self-consciously. Yes, that's me." The man grins widely. He wears a mask and has eye-catching blue hair. He offers Shudo a gloved hand. "I'm Masked Deuce, Firefist's second in command. The young lady here is Tama. Would you like anything to eat or drink?" His other hand gestures to an empty plate and glass on the bar counter. Shudo shakes both his head and Deuce's hand. "I've eaten on the way." The man nods and gets up, dusting stray crumbs from his dark breathes and heavy-looking long coat. "Then we'll be off." He strides to Tama and crouches to her eye level. "Thanks for the food. You'll be good and stay out of trouble, okay? Hitetsu always worries about you. When will Asanai visit me?" She doesn't answer, instead demands with fists clenched. Deuce pats her head. "If something hadn't come up, he would have been here. I told you, he's been wanting to see you all year." "When?" She stands firm, her lips in a stubborn line. "He'll be there for your birthday," Deuce promises. "We'll all bring you presents." Tama huffs. "You better." Deuce laughs and straightens up. He waves at Tama as he exits, Shudo following behind like a lost puppy. They walk to the docks, Deuce whistling all the way, Shudo too awkward and too busy taking in the sights to say anything. There's sailors old and young, loading and unloading cargo, some using their quirks but mostly don't, muscles bulging from the strain. Shudo glances down at his own, though muscular, still gangly arms. Deuce's looks almost twice as big under all that thick fabric. This internship might just add to him a few extra pounds of muscle mass. Here we are. Deuce stops in front of one of the ships, a rather traditional wooden behemoth that towers over them. It appears aged but well-maintained. The man on watch stands up on deck and gestures them to get on. Shudo picks up his suitcase and trailed over dumbly. The crew that has been waiting for them springs to life, moving to lift the anchor and unwrap the sails. Deuce walks over to a large, dark-skinned man with a scruffy, graying beard and tattoos all over his forearms. "Captain," he greets, "this is Shudo Todoroki, the hero in training I told you about." "Endeavor's boy," the man acknowledges, his many arms crossed over his chest. Shudo winces internally. "Your father is a capable man. I expect his son to be the same." Deuce's arm settles around Shudo's shoulders. "Oh, I've seen his festival clips. He'll provide fine protection to your ship." Then he grins. "Of course I myself would be enough, if it comes down to it." The captain grunts in agreement. "You Whitebeards are the best ones to hire in this area." He looks back at Shudo. "Show him to the berth. His chores will be assigned after." Deuce nods. "Let's go, kiddo," he says in Shudo's ear. They go below deck to a room crammed with hammocks. There's a distinct smell of feet combined with the salty scent of the sea. "It smells," Shudo says, crinkling his nose, before flushing because what the hell, did he just say that out loud? Deuce just laughs. He pats Shudo's shoulder. "You'll get used to it. Pick one that's unused. I'll be sleeping in the berth directly below the captain's cabin. Spreading resources, you know?" Shudo doesn't know how to feel about that, but resigns himself to socializing at least with his roommates for the foreseeable future. He claims one hammock in the corner, putting his suitcase on the tightly woven fabric. "This is a merchant ship, so things can get pretty chaotic. Make sure to take care of your belongings," warns the blue-haired man. "We'll be their security detail until we reach Vladivostok." This route is actually part of 12th Division's jurisdictions, but they've got their hands full with something else, so the rest of us has to pick up the slack. Second division has a bunch of multilingual people, and since Fire Fist can speak Japanese, a bunch of Japanese recruits sail under him. That's why we get a big chunk of responsibilities here. Not as much as the 16th, but Southeast Asia is a very busy area, so yeah. That's why I'm here. But isn't your office in Brazil? Shudo frowns. That's a long way. Yeah, we're usually responsible for routes through the Caribbean and to the States. We have our methods of going around, though, Deuce assures, grinning brightly. Meet me on the deck after you've changed out of your uniform. Can you cook? Unspeakable memories flashes through Shudo's mind. I can cook instant soba, he says. Then you'll stay out of the kitchen and we'll get on to cleaning duty. Sailing is a lot of hard work. You don't pitch in, you don't eat, says the masked man. Just be glad we won't even be here long enough to get laundry duty. We'll be ashore in 3 days, then we'll meet up with Fire Fist. I know ship life isn't easy for newbies, but do try to get used to it. Roger, Shudo says. There's a strange smile on Deuce's face before he leaves. Shudo sits down on the thankfully reasonably clean wooden floor, nausea bubbling up already. He couldn't imagine living like this for a whole month. How does Uraraka do it? He muses. He hopes the feeling will eventually subside. Shudo hears footsteps tracing back. Deuce pops his head into the room. I almost forgot. If you want to hurl, I suggest doing it where you won't have to clean it. Good point. Shudo places his warm hand onto his chest, then down to his stomach. He gives Deuce a thumbs up with his cold half. He's up for any challenge. He's going to become a hero. The first day was peaceful. Shudo only vomited twice over the railings after lunch and dinner respectively and found mold under the pile of everything in the storage room. So basically, nothing happened. There was an altercation on the second day. Well, almost. Pirate ship at 12 o'clock, shouted the guy on watch from the crow's nest, who had a far-seeing quirk. They haven't spotted us yet, but they will soon. Deuce ran over to Shudo's side of the ship. He squinted his eyes, an action that Shudo later realized triggered the zoom-in mechanism of his mask. Sheet, that's a big galleon, he said. Shudo couldn't wait to discard the mop in his hands in exchange for a good old-fashioned hero smackdown. We can share, he suggested. The blue-haired man laughed like Shudo just told an especially funny joke. Knock it. Technically I'm not your supervisor, so if I let you fight right now, we might get in trouble. Besides, I can take them. He squinted again. Watch my body until I get back, okay? What dash? Deuce went slack and Shudo scrambled to catch him in his arms. Shudo checked for his pulse while his own heart pounded in his chest. The masked man was breathing normally, heartbeat steady. Just unconscious. Is he all right? Shudo looked up to see the four-armed captain staring at Deuce with a smidge of concern on his stern face. I think it's just his quirk, Shudo said. It's a weird quirk too. Some kind of soul transfer? Shudo wondered. He's probably fighting on the pirate ship right now. Somehow. Except there wasn't any fighting. According to the guy on watch, the pirates just decided to change course without spotting them at all. Deuce opened his eyes minutes later. There was couple seconds of disorientation, evident from the scrunch of his forehead. He took a moment to get used to the morning sunlight, but otherwise sat up quickly and smiled. Crisis averted. Shudo couldn't help but be curious. What did you do? Told the pirate captain to go the other way. He shrugged, like it wasn't something significant. My quirk is useful like that. Shudo felt like he should be sprouting green hair and freckles when he asked the next question. What's your quirk? Deuce stared at him thoughtfully, obviously weighing the pros and cons of telling him. Mindjacking, he decided to reply. I can take over someone's body, basically. It's triggered if. He halted and grinned instead. How about this'll be your homework? Figure out exactly how my quirk works. You have the whole month. Shudo didn't have a problem with it, he still doesn't. He does hero analyses in class all the time. The real-life application should be simple enough. Except Deuce hasn't used his powers again since. How can he figure something out if he can't even observe it? Shudo goes to the berth that night drenched from head to toe courtesy of the receding finally. Storm outside. He sizzles the water out of his clothes, hair and skin before throwing his body onto his hammock. He almost dozes off when he remembers the salve Deuce gave him for the rope burns. It turns out that the pro hero once went to medical school. There's a long story there, but Shudo doesn't want to know, not right then. He's too tired. His whole body aches. He doubts he'll wake up unless the ship's on fire. Or he gets flipped off his hammock. Oof. Shudo hits the planks with a thud, fortunately not landing headfirst. He's definitely awake now, though. Rise and shine, kid. We're docking, Deuce says, fingers still playing with the strings of Shudo's hammock. The culprit. Hope you speak English, 'cause here on out, you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone who knows Japanese. Shudo's English grades are decent, and Endeavor has made sure he's at least conversational. He's far from fluent, though. As long as Fire Fist does, he says from the floor. Seriously, kid. On the seas, the Whitebeards use English as our lingua franca. We only speak other languages for clients or in private, the blue-haired man says. It'll be even harder in our offices, where we mostly use the local language and only English to ones that don't understand it. Duskurin. I thought you said there wouldn't be anyone who speaks Japanese here, the heterochromatic boy accuses when he hears the shout from outside, muted through the wooden planks. Deuce shakes his head. Haruta just adores Aizo enough to adopt a few phrases into his daily vocabulary. He never managed to pick up the language. Shudo doesn't know who Aizo is, but he must have made a huge impression for someone to pick a hero name in his mother tongue. Haruta is a short, boyish-looking man with choppy auburn hair and a wicked smile. He barrels into the room straight at Deuce, who catches him in a hug easily. I'm sorry we've been so busy. My men will take over from here. He talks fast and in English, but fortunately still clear enough for Shudo to decipher. No problem, Commander, Deuce replies in the same language. Then it dawns on Shudo that this overexcited midget with the poofy green getup is in charge of this base, actually a pro hero, and not some intern like him. So this is Ace's new understudy. Shudo blinks. He then remembers to get up and introduce himself. It's only polite. My name is Shuto Todoroki. He bows. Nice to meet you. You remind me of Ace and his manners. When he chooses to have one, the man says, then turns to Deuce. Let's cut to the chase. You only need me to get to Ace, right? So to where? I talked to Fire Fist not long ago. So Ace must be Fire Fist's real name, Shudo thinks. Just drop us off on the Spadil, please. Sure. Haruta skips to each of them, linking his arms and gripping tight. Shudo tries to adjust his elbows, but they won't budge. Hold on tight, all right? It feels like he is smacked from behind by a wrecking ball and into a black hole, being SE and then spat out to the other side, free falling down head first onto sturdy wooden floors. This all happened in less than a second. Shudo can only gasp for air as all his wind has been knocked out of him. He hears Deuce's groans to his left. From the corner of his eye, he confirms that they are both lie sprawled, face down. I can never get used to that. The blue-haired man sits up first, rubbing his head. It took me 16 years. I'd be sad if you did. Haruta cackles. Shudo manages to look up and finds Haruta still on his feet, not winded in the slightest. The short man buzzes in place restlessly. I want to see Ace, but I really have to go back. He pouts. But I can always visit later. He grins and disappears. There is only a pair of bright green shoe prints left where he once stood. Seeing Shudo's puzzled face, Deuce explains, Haruta's quirk is called checkpoint. When he stands still for too long, he leaves footprints that he can teleport back to. He has special shoes now that lets him place a footprint on command, or color the important ones. We use his ability to connect our bases around the world. We'd rather not use it if we don't have to, though. He stands up, dusting away at his coat. You know, he must be impressed with you. First-timers usually faint. Yay me, Shudo wants to say, but is only able to let out a groan. Deuce laughs at him. Come on, let's go up on deck. He offers Shudo a hand, which the boy takes gladly, then wobbles onto his feet. With feet still jelly, Shudo follows Deuce out the cabin door. Kid, welcome aboard the piece of Spadil. The room turns out to be a small storage room, a small hallway connecting it to two bigger ones. They go out through a hatch in front of the door of the first one. Shudo walks up the steps and onto the middle of the deck, into the night. Stars sprinkle the pitch-black sky. The moon, the light up in the crow's nest and the ones hung in corners illuminate the ship, which is clear of people as far as Shudo can see. Only miles of clear water and endless sky greet them. Shudo breathes in the cool sea breeze. His body warms automatically beneath his button-up shirt. "Welcome to the Atlantic Ocean," Deuce says, his coat flapping in the wind. "We just jumped back 12 hours. I'd offer breakfast, but it seems we only have dinner." Right on cue, Shudo's stomach growls. The blue-haired man laughs and opens the door into the galley, where the smell of a small feast wafts through. Plates upon plates of juicy-looking meat are on the long table, along with a big bowl of fruit and another of freshly steamed rice. Shudo counts 20 people sitting around, doing more talking than eating. The crew zeroes in on them immediately, except for one dark-haired man who has his face planted on his food. "Deuce, you're back," a guy with a cowboy hat says. Deuce sits down on the spot next to him and pulls Shudo along to do the same. "Dig in," he murmurs, nudging the boy towards the food. He takes a plate and piles it up himself. Shudo hesitates. It's impolite. "So, is this our new crew member?" A heavy-set woman takes the seat beside Shudo and smiles, one hand on the table propping up her chin. "I'm Shudo Todoroki. Nice to meet you. Please take care of me." He bows slightly. "Oh, he's precious. Ace will have fun with him." Another woman walks by, short hair swept over one eye. An unlit cigarette rests between her corked lips. "Any other news for us, Deuce? 'Cause we sure have some for you, all 3 stacks of paperwork worth." Shudo gets onto eating with the topic change. He doesn't have an idea what kind of meat is being served, but it tastes as delicious as it looks. He multitasks eating and observing the conversation. "Y'all are a-holes," Deuce says. "Especially you, Cornelia. You better light that up outside, because if I can't make you quit killing yourself, the least I can do is stop you from killing everyone else." Yeah, yada, yada, I know the drill." She tucks in the cancer stick into the BRST pocket of her fur-lined coat. "Now spill." Deuce sighs, took a bite of the tasty mystery steak, and begins telling them all about his week. He wipes his mouth and ends it with his brief trip to Japan. "I met Tama. I promised her we'll all go bring her presents on her birthday." "Did someone say Tama?" The dark-haired sleeping man sits up ramrod straight, grains of rice falling from his face and onto his chest, courtesy of his yellow open shirt. His skin is freckled, much like Midoriya's, Shudo thinks, his eyes steel gray on a very expressive face. "Boss, I told you to take your meds." Deuce chides and huffs. "I can't believe this. I was gone for 1 week. 1 week, and suddenly no one takes care of anything in this ship." "Boss?" Shudo needs time to wrap his head around the man currently having his face smeared with food being a pro-hero, moreover the leader of the ship. "That's why we all need you," Firefist says, batting his eyelashes, causing small clumps of rice to drip from his eyelashes. Deuce hands him his used handkerchief long-sufferingly. Firefist wipes down his face with it, missing a smidge of sauce on his temple. "Also, I forgot to tell you I ran out." "I'll pick it up the next time we land," the blue-haired man says. "And when the hell will that be?" The man with the cowboy hat hands him a drink consolingly. "We're still chasing Joker's trafficking ring, which according to our intel is heading for the States. If we don't catch them by then, we'll need to refuel along the way. So maybe in 3 to 4 days in Santo Domingo." "Sheet." Deuce finishes the whole tankard. "We haven't caught them yet?" Cornelia scowls. "They're fast. We got close once, but one guy on board has some kind of propeller quirk. Blasted away. We won't be caught off guard again." Firefist stands up and announces to the entire room, eyes burning with promise, instantly commanding everyone's attention. "Next time we'll be ready." "Aye." All crew members say in unison. Shudo himself nods resolutely. As the room's focus disperses from Firefist, Shudo finds himself to be the receiving end of his. Gray eyes stare him down. "You're our new intern. What do you expect to get being here?" He puts his hands on his hips and leans back lazily. "Why are you here?" Mismatched eyes stare back. I want to learn how to control my fire better. And what's your goal? The man asks. Your dream. Number 1 hero. Shudo replies without missing a beat. A manic grin stretches across Firefist's mouth. Then just learning won't do. You must emissary your fire. He holds out his arm. Flames flare from the crook of his elbow to the tips of his fingers. No, the entirety of his forearm becomes transparent, a flickering mass of reds to yellow, heat focused on a finger glowing white, before he snuffs it out by tucking it into his fist. Smoke sizzles out. Shudo stares in awe. I've seen videos of you fighting with flames that will sooner burn the allies by your side than your enemies, the man says. He jabs a finger at Shudo's chest. You can't save anybody from danger if you are the danger. Shudo sees Deuce hiding a snort behind his tankard. Firefist ignores him. As long as you are under my care, you are not to use your ice side offensively nor defensively. You've honed it enough. Now you gotta give your fire side the treatment you had refused it for over a decade. Everyone is leaving the room, one by one collecting empty plates and tankards. Even Deuce leaves Shudo at their boss' mercy with a pat on his back. We'll have lessons and spar every day, Firefist continues. Aside from pyrokinesis, we'll work on hand-to-hand combat. You'll get last pick of chores until you can scratch me. From what I've seen, a 10-year-old me can wipe the floor with you. He puts both hands on his hips, smug and condescending. Any questions? Shudo wants to protest, especially on the not using ice for a month and is weaker than a 10-year-old parts, but fails to find a rational argument. He has been terrible at managing his quirk, and Firefist might have been a tiny hellion. Shudo doesn't have enough data to disprove. Half-baked words lay frozen and dead in his mouth. He swallows them. No. Firefist claps his hand. Great. Since you just woke up, you'll get a watch shift tonight. Skull will tell you everything you might want to know in the crow's nest, after you finish washing all the dishes, of course. Skull's quirk is useless for battle. He can remember every single detail of a subject, but only if he's interested in it. Fortunately, he is very enthusiastic towards everything hero and villain related, thus easily reaching expert status in heroics and criminal data. He plays an integral part in the 2nd Division operations, and Shudo suspects, maybe even in the entire Whitebeard agency. They have been talking through the night. Skull has told everything Shudo needed to know about the ship, running his mouth until he runs out of information to tell, leading him to start filling him in on each crew member instead. Including and especially himself. Ace was really cool to me back when he was a rookie pro hero. I was a local journalist, you see, he says, gesturing animatedly, though only a stoic Skull stares back at Shudo. His macabre appearance makes it hard for Shudo to keep eye contact at first, but Skull is an excellent converser that manages to make even Todoroki Shudo relax and react from the 3rd sentence. We chatted at a restaurant for an interview, but I ended up talking more than him. When he called me up a year later and asked if I'd be interested working for the Whitebeard agency under him, I was ecstatic. Being part of hero work is so much better than just seeing it firsthand. That's amazing, Shudo says, a little awkwardly, still stiff with his English but thankfully able to keep up with Skull's rapid-fire and slightly Portuguese-accented speech. The man nods. Being born with this quirk, I never thought I'd be able to help save people, but Ace gave me a chance to do it. The bones making up his face can't emote, but Shudo can tell he is smiling gently by the tone of his voice. I'm forever grateful to him. So Firefist made you change careers from journalist to pro hero? Skull throws his long curly-haired head back in laughter. No, I'm not a pro. I'm the ship's log keeper. My role is not a fighter. I'm simply that guy everyone calls when they need to recall a certain information. The rigid row of teeth smiles at Shudo. Only 8 people on the crew are heroes. Firefist, Masked Deuce, Saber, Dogia, Banshee, Finnemore, and Wallace. With you there's 8. Everyone else are normal people with everyday jobs. For example, Carmen cooks and Cornelia is our walking, talking support department. We can all hold our own in a fight when we have to, though. Shudo glances at the blade sheathed on Skull's hip, the hilt generously decorated with his namesake. Well, that explains his sword. But you're technically still a civilian. Isn't that illegal? We play by different rules here, out in the open seas, the older man says. On a ship, there's specific roles to play. Roles that pro heroes may not be qualified for. We normal folks are necessary. We're not supposed to fight, but when we do, it's chalked up to self-defense. That makes sense, says Shudo. Before he can pick more of Skull's brain, the man wearing a cowboy hat barges inside. Skull, Deuce needs ya for paperwork. I'll take over watch, he says, jabbing his thumb over his shoulder. The bone-faced man stands up. Thanks, Saber. Better you working on those reports than me, he shrugs, then unexpectedly turns to Shudo. Boss says you can go sleep, you've got a big day tomorrow. Skull, show him to his bunk, wilt thee? Skull nods and leads Shudo out. The moon is high up in the pitch-black sky. There's them, a big guy steering the ship, Cornelia out smoking with pajamas on, and no one else. When presented with his hammock, Shudo remembers an important detail. I left my suitcase in the merchant ship, he whispers in the room full of sleeping men, eyes widening with realization. I'll ask Commander Haruda to come by later. Just sleep for now, Skull assures. The last thing Shudo sees before the door closes is a pair of hollow eye sockets, peering into his soul. Trust me, you'll need it. Deuce stops Shudo on his way to his training with Fire Fist. The older man grabs his shoulder in the hallway and says seriously, the infirmary is in the west wing of the ship. There's a sign up front, you can't miss it. Okay. Shudo blinks at the warning, but is determined to trudge ahead. It's what he's here to do, it's not like he can chicken out. Deuce lets him go to the deck with a pat on the back and an expression that weeps at his naivety. Shudo watches him walk away in befuddlement. He's been training with Endeavor since he was 4. How bad can Fire Fist's lessons possibly be? Juge. Shudo spits blood over the railing, 20 minutes later. He trembles to get to his feet, arms and legs mottled with yellowing bruises. Under the clothes Haruda has retrieved for him earlier that morning are probably a couple fractured ribs. Your movements are too big. You're always wide open. The culprit chides with a mean smile, not a scratch on him. Don't tell me that's all you got. The blood filling Shudo's mouth makes it hard for him to verbalize anything. His face should be turning an ugly purple anytime now. He's pretty sure his jaw isn't in one piece. Shudo answers the only way he can, with a deep breath and straight charge towards the smug-looking man. Fire Fist catches his fist and twists, slamming Shudo on the floor and practically sitting on him to esping. Shudo gasps, his injured ribs hitting the wooden planks. You know, I have a little brother about your age. Fire Fist makes small talk over him. He's a weak, reckless crybaby, but you're doing so much worse than him. Ace. One of the crew members spectating on the sidelines finally intervenes. Saber stands up, hands up in a placating manner in front of him. Don't you think this is a bit too much? Hell yeah it is, Shudo tries to grunt out but fails. The cowboy-hatted man isn't finished. You can go all out in spars with Luffy because he's Luffy. Shudo isn't made out of RBB. Fire Fist pouts in protest. I'm testing his reflexes too. It's not my fault he SEKs at dodging. But he does free his grip on Shudo's arms and got off him. Not every high schooler is a monster like your brother, Ace. Carmen deadpants. She's a woman with wild pink hair, a yellow fan almost always on hand to blow the pesky strands away from her face. Stop having weird expectations. Treat Shudo like you would a normal kid. The freckled man sighs. You're right, he admits. A hand comes into Shudo's line of sight. Can you stand up? Shudo accepts it gingerly, but those fists that had no problem pummeling him a minute earlier is surprisingly gentle in pulling him up to his feet. Let's get you patched and rested up. We'll continue with fire lessons after dinner. Fire Fist's voice is softer, almost soothing. He looks a bit guilty. Cornelia takes the cigarette out of her mouth to whistle. Deuce is going to be said. Ace. You do realize I'm not Marco, right? Deuce says in exasperation. He sets Shudo on the bed, medical tools already prepped on the table beside it. He doesn't look angry, just tired. He checks Shudo's injuries with gloved hands, eyes skimming the damage. These will take time to heal, you idiot. Are you trying to incapacitate him for the rest of his stay here? I'm sorry, Fire Fist apologizes without preamble. Is it really that bad? We still have some Mancherry's tears left, right? The blue-haired man nods. I'll give him a drop or two. He moves to get a vial of clear liquid from the cabinet. Shudo notices that all the bottles inside are stuck with magnets to prevent collision when the waves are rough. There's this tiny girl whose tears can instantly heal people at the cost of their stamina. Mancherry's friends with Ace's brother, so we managed to get a few vials for free. They're so expensive otherwise, Deuce explains. The vial's cap is connected to a pipette. He drips a drop into Shudo's mouth. A refreshing feeling sweeps through Shudo's body. There's a cool rush as his bones mend together and the bruises fade from his skin. It feels just like one of Recovery Girl's smooches, along with the tremendous amount of exhaustion that follows afterwards. Ace will bring your lunch here, says the blue-haired man. You're on bed rest until you can move again. It'll take a few hours, but you should be up and running before dinner. Thank you, Shudo manages to say. Yeah, thanks Deuce, Fire Fist echoes. The older man waves it off. Just don't do it again next time, he says, then heads to the door. Fire Fist follows. I'll be back after we grab a bite. He grins as both of them walk out. Shudo is left to stare at the ceiling, reflecting on what just happened. The fight feels like a slap in the face. If he were Bakugo, he would be gritting his teeth in frustration, but Shudo just feels empty. Is this all he can do? There's a lot of moments in where he ached to call upon his ice in the fight, before remembering not to. Has he really been relying on that half of his quirk so much? He isn't as good in hand-to-hand combat as some of his other classmates with more hands-on quirks. Sure, he hasn't won a single no-quirk spar against Ojiro, Midoriya, Kirishima, Bakugo, and recently Shinso, but he doesn't think he's this bad. I've grown complacent. Shudo is glad none of them are here to see him getting washed like some amateur. Or, heavens forbid, his father. You're not really weak, why no? Fire Fist comes in with a plate in his hand and food in his mouth. He unfolds a mini table over Shudo's sickbed and places the dish on top. He sits next to him, a sheet-eating grin on his face. I'm just strong. That still means I'm not strong, Shudo counters. He makes no move to sit up, he can't. Fire Fist doesn't try to help him. True. You're not, he says, yet. But I see the potential in you. He leans onto the bedside table, one hand supporting his head. Shudo is surprised when he switches to Japanese. You have 2 quirks, right? Yeah, Shudo replies in his mother tongue. My mom and my dad's quirks. Fire Fist smiles. Me too. Shudo twists his head to face him so fast. Really? His mentor frowns. Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. He lifts his idle hand, turning it to flickering embers. This is what I got from my mom. She has good OL pyrokinesis, but mine has a nature more similar to my Uncle Dragon. It's called fire matter. I can turn my body and limited amounts of the environment into fire. The flames die as he sets his arm down. My other quirk comes from my old man's family. It's called Conqueror's Will. I don't like him much, so I don't use it as much. He chuckles. I guess we're pretty alike, huh? Shudo narrows his eyes accusingly. So you talked about me not using my fire when you're doing the same. The man flicked Shudo's forehead lightly. Oh. Unlike you, I actually trained to get both of my quirks under control, he says. Granted, Uncle Shanks beat it into me. Fire is just way cooler and my mother is an awesome teacher, so I'm straight at first. It has become second nature to me, so I always reach for it first. Isn't it hard to control? Fire Fist laughs. Very, he says. At first, I'd combust into flames every time I get mad, and I was a very angry kid. Then I met my brothers. In one of my fits, I accidentally burnt one of them. Shudo looks at him in horror. I couldn't live with myself. It kills me inside every time I see that scar on his face. He studies the bedridden boy. His looks a lot like yours, actually. That pushed me to get it under control. I basically quarantined myself with my mother, refused to meet anyone else until I get it down. He twirls his hand and a tiny glowing ball of green light appears out of thin air. You have to understand that the fire is part of you. It's an extension of your body. As he waves his finger around, the green ball follows. When you say burn, it asks how much. The ball of light pulses to be brighter, then dims back. In my case, when I conjure fire out of the oxygen in the air, I can even tell it to combust whenever I want. He flares all 5 of his fingers and the green lights explodes right in the middle. Smoke wafts out and a fiery hand fans it out. When it turns back to flesh and bone, there isn't a soot mark on it. You should start ahead with some breathing exercises. Those you can do right here, lying down, he says. When you can move your hand, put it in front of you and set it on fire as you breathe out. Pull it back as you breathe in. Do it until you don't have to try to do it anymore, until it comes as easy as breathing. Then try it on each finger. He demonstrates it briefly. Shuto observes the way not a single lick of flame flares out of place, how every ember dissipate into nothing the moment Fire Fist wants it to. When you can do that, up the intensity of the flames. You know that feeling, right? Like it's burning your whole body from inside. Shuto does know it very well. It happens every time he wills his fire temperature up. There's nothing you can do to avoid that from happening, but you can focus the feeling into a single part of your body so only a part of you burns hotter. If you condense it in your fist, you're basically attacking with the firepower of your whole body in a single point. The effect is devastating. Like in Devor's ultimate attacks, Shuto says. Fire Fist must do the same thing, he realizes. The dark-haired man nods and continues, your father has also built a resistance to it. My quirk is a bit different. Since with fire matter, I am fire, I just learned to accept it. It takes me longer to dim down whenever I burn hotter, and the feeling subsides way later. If you see any scorch marks on the ship, it's because my skin still sizzles anything I touch minutes after I rein it in. Fire Fist looks at Shuto contemplatingly. For you, you have your cold side. I don't doubt that you can manage your temperature with it, but since it's your fire quirk training, I forbid it. He lips pull into a smirk. If you get it down the hard way, the easy way will be a breeze. All right. Shuto accepts the challenge. The man stands up and dusts down his non-flammable breathes. Well, I'll leave you to it. Go eat your mashed potatoes with grilled sea king. I trust you have no problem reheating it. He grins widely. Shuto cracks a smile. No, he says. Some strength has returned to the tips of his body. He feels so much better already. No problem at all. While hovering on his seat during his flight, until a flight attendant notices and kindly tells him to sit down and wear his seatbelt properly. Red floods Izuku's face as he scrambles through his apology. He is flustered for a few minutes before the hype overrides his brain, contorting his face back to a madman's grin. He's going to America. For training. Just like what All Might did in his youth. He opens his phone as soon as they are permitted to, and uses the plane Wi-Fi to access the chat app. I've boarded the plane. He sends first, then a similar text to All Might. He opens the class chat room next, only to find out he's the only one online. They're all probably still asleep or on the road, he murmurs, glancing past his snoring seatmate to the early morning sky outside the window. Actually, sleep seems like a good idea, he thinks, but when he tries, his giddiness pulls him back awake. In the end, 12 hours on the air conquers Izuku's excitement. He snaps up from his nap when their landing is announced. He came prepared with his international data plan. As soon as he reaches the airport, he calls his mother to ease her worries, like a good son should. He belatedly realizes there's free internet connection provided by the airport and logs in quickly, announcing his arrival to All Might and in the group chat which has stacked up over 999 notifications during his lengthy flight. I'm on American soil. He announces in between a conversation of what to have for dinner in downtown Fukuoka. Dude, I'm so jealous, comes a quick reply from Kaminari. Who send us a picture? Mina requests. Izuku snaps one as he waits in line for his passport to be stamped. He sees that 15 people read his photo, which should include Kaken who is online, but chooses to stay silent. Izuku chuckles. Lucky BSRD, Jiru sends. I'm glad you arrived safely Midoriya-kun. Ida, bless his heart, sends out. That's really great Deku-kun. I hope you have fun and learn a lot. Izuku smiles at Ochako's message. Many other well wishes flood the chat. He replies a quick thank you to all of them. Ochako posts a thumbs up before sending. Me and Kirishima are still waiting at Frankfurt TT. We've been playing cards for like the last 2 hours, confirms Kirishima. I bet Roundface swindled you out of all your money already. Kaken shockingly joins the conversation, unsurprisingly avoiding the topic of Izuku in America. Ooh, he's speaking from experience, Mina teases. I don't bet money while playing cards, okay. Ochako protests. You're the only exception 'cause you're a rich jackass with a shitty poker face, tongue sticking out. OMG Uraraka, you're the best, sends Kaminari. Someone help me up, my chair, am dying. Sending you virtual love and support, bro. Kirishima comes to the rescue. Izuku smiles at their shenanigans all the way through immigration. When he reaches the lobby and looks up, a sign with his name written on it in both kanji and romaji catches his eye. The boy holding it looks to be around Izuku's age, with pink hair over a flowery bandana and a pair of blue goggles. There's a taller, long-haired blonde guy next to him, his eyes hidden under visor sunglasses. They both wear a distinct blue and white uniform and stood up so straight, Izuku feels called out on his posture. The green-haired boy walks up to them. The previously bickering pair stops to stare at him. The pink one breaks into a smile. Midoriya Izuku-san, isn't it? He tucks the sign under one arm and offers his other hand. American customs. Izuku shakes his hand enthusiastically, several times. Izuku gulps before he readies his warbled English. Yes, it's me. Nice to meet you. The pink-haired boy laughs. It's nice to meet you too, Izuku-san. My name is Kobe, and this is my best friend, Helmeppo. We're both Marines in training tasked to escort you to the base. Garp-san is expecting you. Please take care of me. Izuku bows down so fast he almost gets whiplash. You can be casual around us. We're all students here, Kobe says sheepishly as he leads them inside a government car. The other guy gets in last and slams the driver's door shut. He starts the vehicle. Say something out of line. To the superiors and you'll get decked though. Kobe giggles. But it's good to stay true to your ideal justice. Garp-san especially appreciate people with backbone. Without that, you can't rise to the top. Izuku blinks. Ideal justice? Yeah. Oh, you're studying to be a hero, right? That's not so different from being a Marine, he says, eyes thoughtful and sparkling. It's like when you're chasing a criminal, well, a villain in your case, what's your attitude towards it? What are your limits? Izuku's eyes widen. I've never thought about it before. I guess I'll do everything I can to save everyone. He stares at his scarred hands, flashes of Eri, Kuda and Ida's stricken faces as he saves them just in time crossing his mind. He remembers the horror villains bring, the fright on Kaken's face as the slime monster suffocated him. I just want everyone to keep their smiles. He looks up to see Kobe and the blonde-haired guy, gosh, what's his name, observing him like he's an interesting specimen. Heat floods Izuku's face. Don't be embarrassed. Kobe quickly says. That's a really good answer. Kinda pretentious, but okay, the other guy says, stopping on a red light. It's not pretentious, the pink-haired boy assures. Helmeppo's just being AD-. So that's his name, Izuku swears to remember it. What about you too? I just don't want a-holes like my dad to run around freely, Helmeppo says nonchalantly. His dad was a corrupt Marine, whispers Kobe. He tried to kill us. Izuku gasps. The light turns green. The blonde-haired boy steps on the gas. It's a long story. Mine is even longer. Kobe laughs. Before I met Helmeppo, I was kidnapped for a few years by a villain and her gang. Saw some horrible things there. Don't want that happening to anyone else. His eyes turn serious. That's why I don't think I can kill anyone, even if they're a criminal. I've had enough of senseless loss of life. I can't stand it. That's awful. Izuku blanches. I think I'm the same. Defeating is one thing, but I don't think I can bring myself to kill either. He says earnestly, you're amazing, Kobe, to get out and get to where you are now. The young Marine in training scratches behind a reddening ear. I didn't actually do anything. Luffy-san, Garp-san's grandson, was the one who saved me. I can't stand that idiot, Helmeppo comments, unasked. Luffy-san is a great man, Kobe states. He's alright, but I still don't like him, the blonde-haired boy says. He pulls up into a gated clearing, a white flag bearing a seagull fluttering from on top of the tower inside. We're here. Izuku follows the two boys with his suitcase in tow, through a grassy field and into the towering building. The green-haired boy walks in awe of the sturdy white walls as he is led to the back of the building, where several training grounds lay, some bustling with soldiers and others empty, ready to be used. An imposing figure with tan skin, gray hair and a wide grin stands in the middle of one of the clearings. Izuku recognizes him immediately. His all-might-like build wears the same white suit he donned at the conference, with the same white coat draped over his shoulders. Took you long enough, you brats? Garp's voice is gruff with age but still has a bellowing quality, which again, reminds Izuku of his mentor. No wonder they are friends, Izuku thinks, but they're also different. He can't put a finger into what it is, but while both men are intimidating, with All Might he always feels safe and sound. Garp's presence, on the other hand, gives out an underlying sense of dread. Garp-san. Both Marine in training halt and salute. Izuku, at a loss at what to do, mimics them a few seconds late. Garplus. Our new recruit. Right here, right now is your initiation. The UA student stands straighter, eyes wide, before narrowing as he starts strategizing. Garp grins. 30 seconds. Kobe will be your opponent. If I don't like what I see, you're going back home. The old Marine steps back and instantly, Kobe is in front of Izuku's face, kicking up and bruising his jaw. Izuku calls for one for all, power crackling through his body at full cowl as he flips in the air and lands strong, Kobe already swinging a punch to his face. Izuku catches it easily and throws him out of bounds by upping his power percentage a bit. Izuku uses the moment the pink-haired boy flies through the air to catch his breath, only to be met by a leg swinging at his head. He manages to duck, and with hundreds of hours worth of sparring with his classmates rushing through his reflexes, grabs the pink-haired boy by the collar and slams him to the floor, his other hand balled into a crackling fist. Wow, you're really strong, Izuku-san. Kobe smiles. As expected, I can't win against your quirk. You were amazing too, Izuku praises, because it's true. He's so fast and agile, maybe a speed quirk? And his blows were no joke too, an all-around enhancer type? You pass, Garp says. You boys show him around, okay? He waves his hand and turns away. Izuku follows the chorus of yes sir. Then the two boys as they round the corner to a smaller building which Izuku assumes to be their room and board. Mind still on the fight, he can't keep his mouth shut. Kobe, is your quirk speed enhancement? Because you were really fast, I could barely see you. I have a friend like that dash. Izuku stops when Helmeppo snorts. He wasn't using his quirk at all. The green-haired boy freezes. What? Well, there's a reason why we're trying to be Marines and not heroes. Kobe starts, still walking ahead. Izuku is forced to catch up. I'm sorry for confusing you. My quirk is empathy. I can feel other people's feelings. They walk up the stairs. It's not flashy at all, and I could just study psychology or something, but I was set on catching criminals, he continues. My dream of becoming a hero died when I was 4. After some research, I decided to become a Marine instead. For once, Izuku is at a loss for words. He knows Kobe's feelings too well, but can't just reveal his quirkless past. You're lucky to not born with a shitty quirk, Helmeppo sneers, which is totally false. But again, Izuku can't say. Suddenly, the pink-haired boy smiles at him. I don't know how, but thank you for understanding. He knows what I feel, Izuku realizes. Once I've gotten the hang of it, my quirk is pretty handy anyway, Kobe says, leading them into a hallway. Ugh, it's so unfair, Miss Helmeppo. The freckle-faced boy frowns. Are you quirkless or something? I might as well be, he says. Kobe laughs. On paper, it's actually pretty cool. Metal fusion, the ability to fuse his hands to a metal item. The exact same quirk as my dad. Izuku tilts his head at the blonde-haired boy. That sounds useful. He clearly doesn't think so. The catch is that once you fuse it, it's permanent. Ah. My dad fused his arm to an axe. Going to the toilet is torturous, I assure you, he says. I love my knives, but I'd like to keep my hands, thank you very much. Izuku refuses to see a quirk as useless. Why not fuse something more practical, like a watch, for example? You just came from the airport, Izuku-san, reminds Kobe. Immigration for metal quirk wielders are just the worst. And I bet you're jet-lagged, Helmeppo says, opening a door with a letter and a 3-digit number on it. The room is simply furnished with 2 bunks, one stacked on top of the other, white walls and sunlight peeking behind the blinds. I know you're excited, but try to rest well, Kobe says. Don't burn yourself up just yet. That's what Garp-san will do to you at training. Izuku sits on the bottom bunk. He is tired, but much too restless to be confined for the rest of the evening. When will it start? He asks eagerly. His 2 new acquaintances, or perhaps friends, shares a look together that Izuku cannot decipher. I hope you've got a thick skull, the blonde muses. Kobe smiles encouragingly. It starts tonight. Scorching heat runs through every vein of Shudo's left side. The fever licks dangerously at the border to his dormant cold half, producing beads of cold sweat as he fights to rein his ice in. With a deep breath, Shuto extinguishes the 100th ball of flame on his palm. He gasps like he hasn't known air, ending the breathing exercise. The infirmary door opens with a creak. The bedridden boy turns his head just enough to see who's coming in. You look like sheet, Cornelia says, the cigarette absent from her mouth. It takes a second for Shudo to process her words underneath all the pain. I feel like sheet, he confirms. She chortles. With long strides, she sashays to the cupboard, pocketing something Shudo can't see. She takes out something from her other pocket. She has a lot, Shudo observes. What does she even use them for? And chucks it at Shudo. His right hand catches it. Deuce says he's never seen you touch your phone. So, naturally, I went through your things and connected it to the ship's router, in case you want to update your folks, she says. Shudo's eyes widens as he unlocks his phone. I'm the worst son ever. It's been almost a week and he hadn't had a single thought about it. Dozens of missed calls and messages from his mom and sister and dad and more chat notifications than his phone can number stares back at him accusingly. Frantically, and with one hand, Shudo is sure anything that comes into contact with his left will melt a horrible death. He first answers his family. Cornelia has already left when he calls his mom, and proceeds to be scolded thoroughly. She asks to video call, but Shudo vehemently refuses, listing just short of 100 different excuses. He doesn't want her to see the state he is in. Instead, he smiles and sends the very cropped selfie to both her and his worrywart sister. I'm doing fine. I've been busy, is what he sends Endeavor. Firefist is teaching me well, he decides to add, since his dad will ask anyway. Natsuo only sent him one message telling him to reply to their mom and sister. Since Shudo has done just that, he leaves it on read. The Class 2A group chat, on the other hand, as always, is bustling with activity. The second he opens it, signaling his online status, the barrage of messages pop up like crazy. You're alive! Is sent by at least 5 different people, each with only a slight change in exclamation mark use. Barely, Shudo thinks, but doesn't send. We thought you've drowned or something, sends Jiru. I'm glad you're alright, Todoroki. That one's from Momo. Shudo hopes her internship is going well too, better than her unproductive venture in their first year. That's too FANG bad, sends their resident grump. Though Bakugu's sociability has improved leaps and bounds, Shudo is still taken aback every time he pipes up in the group chat. Shudo sends them the same, curt excuse he gave his father. I've been busy. Have you fought pirates yet, Todoroki? Tsuyu asks. I bet you've been getting lots of action, sends Kaminari. It's really not fair. A lot is true. He has been washing dishes, mopping floors, getting decked. Yeah, there's no way in hell he will elaborate. There were pirates, he sends, because it's true, though Deuce had handled it on his own. It's been productive. Pics or it didn't happen, Bakugu challenges. Won't it be hard to take pics when you're fighting pirates? Siro, ever the voice of reason. Don't mind Bakugu, sends Mina. His ego is just bigger than usual since he's been on the papers a lot lately. Perks of interning with the #1 hero, Jiru sends. But Kogu explodes, it's not a perk when IF earned it. He's been whining about that airbender guy from Shiketsu all week, Siro sends. That guy is interning with Hawks, so I don't whine. Debatable, Shinso, of all people, chimes in. Anyway, doesn't it feel like we're trading Midoriya for Todoroki? Shudo frowns. Midoriya? We haven't heard from him again since the first day, Tsuyu explains. He's totally dead, Kaminari theorizes, there's no other explanation. Todoroki answering the chat before Midoriya? Either he's not with us anymore, or it's the apocalypse. Don't be mean to Deku-kun, Uraraka scolds. Yeah, not cool, bro, Kirishima sends. See? Even these two are updating, argues Kaminari. At Uraraka Ochako at Kirishima Ijuro, how's your internship going? Shudo diverts the topic. He's also very curious. Chatting with his friends makes him wonder how they're faring, especially the ones who are abroad too. Sorry. It's classified, Uraraka sends, which leads to Shudo having many questions. The only thing I can tell you is that after all this is over, Uraraka will beat each and every one of your buttes in sparring, adds Kirishima. Speaking from experience, shitty hair? Heck yeah he is, Uraraka replies, challenging. This escalates to a few promise matches and many bets. Shudo smiles and indulges himself. Kirishima has always had sound judgment. You're having fun. Startled, Shudo turns his head away from his phone to see Fire Fist by the bed, folded arms serving as a pillow on the mattress. He sets down the phone. Fire Fist chuckles. Your skin is still flushed but not that red good, he observes. Can you stand now? They're stiff at first, but unlike a few hours ago, Shudo's legs actually moves when he tells them to. He wobbles to a sitting position on the bed and stands up slowly. Fire Fist flicks his forehead, almost sending him tumbling back to the bed. The raven-haired man places Shudo's scalding left hand over his shoulder, unbothered by its temperature, and helps him out the room and onto the deck. Shudo reaches for the railing, a bit embarrassed having to be helped up. I'll show you a trick on how to cool down fast, Fire Fist says, smiling mischievously. The next thing Shudo knows, his stomach flips as he is flung overboard, airborne, falling head first into the Atlantic Ocean with a big splash. His legs kick up in panic to keep him afloat. He spits out ice-cold seawater and glares at his laughing mentor. The man is not wrong though. The freezing water temperature seeps all the way through his bones, quickly replacing the heat with a chill that has him shivering. An end of a rope is thrown down. Teeth chattering, Shudo swims to it and starts climbing. Fire Fist pulls him up onto the deck. A nice trick, isn't it? The man has the gall to grin. Only then does Shudo realize he can move pretty much normally again. The soaked boy still glares at him, unimpressed. Go take a quick shower, you know where it is, the man shooed, unbothered. Shudo stomps off to take the longest, warmest bath in his life. Don't skip dinner. Fire Fist shouts after him, we're having a meeting after. Fire Fist saves a seat for him at dinner and piles a lot of food onto his plate. A subtle apology. Shudo reluctantly forgives him. Carmen has outdid herself with the meal. The noodles are cooked perfectly, the broth warm and smells too good. Shudo has eaten more seafood in the past week than his entire life, but he isn't complaining. His mentor isn't either. He shovels food into his mouth constantly, and barely joining in the table conversation. He falls asleep once, but Deuce manages to lie him back before he can faceplant onto his food. After the meal, the table is cleared and wiped down. The air takes a serious turn. Skull leaves the room and comes back with a rolled map on one hand. Everyone gathered around as he unfurls it onto the table. The signal from Cornelia's tracker on Joker's ship went awry at 9 this morning. It's safe to say that they had found and chucked it away somewhere, probably fed it to a fish, he starts. Has been removed from Joker's ship around 9 a.m. this morning, he starts. I sent their last coordinates to Miharl immediately. Based on his calculations, they should be in this area. He pulls out a marker and circles a patch of sea closer to the middle of nowhere than the Caribbean. They're taking a detour, Deuce observes. Skull nods. We're here right now. He draws a dot near the Dominican Republic. Since the wind and weather's been great, we're ahead of schedule. We'll quickly refuel and restock in the morning, then we're heading out to dash. Ambush. Cornelia squeals, clapping excitedly. Set our ambush, yes, says Skull. We've called your grandfather, Ace. You should really call him back dash. Never. To give him a heads up, so the entire East Coast should be swarming with Marines. If we're dealing with anyone else, we can call it a day and head back. But this is Joker, so it will be tricky. Mihail predicts they will try something, so we'll have to catch them before that. He draws a curve from the circle, then a diagonal line from the dot through it. Them sacrificing their speed makes it possible for us to intercept them in 2 days, approximately at noon. Great job, Skull, Firefist praises. Shudo watches the bone-faced man beam in happiness, somehow. Banshee, you're scouting on deck from D-Day dawn. Fighters, be on alert. Cornelia, Aggie, make sure the cannons are ready. Skull and Deuce, I'll leave the scheming to you guys as always, their commander orders. A chorus of "Aye" answers him. Shudo joins in. Firefist's gray eyes gleam like steel. I want us to be ready for them. We won't get caught by surprise again. While Firefist suplexes him on deck, Banshee is by the fiery cow skull figurehead, mouth open in a silent scream. Well, silent to a regular human's ears anyway. The chubby woman's quirk reminds Shudo of present mix, but instead of always being ungodly loud, her quirk allows her to alter the decibel of her screeching. She has a weird-looking hearing device on her ears that Cornelia proudly explained she had designed, capable of catching and translating all the noise she makes into a listenable sound, including the echolocation she's doing. Take 5, Firefist says, finally releasing his hold on Shudo. The boy grunts in reply and picks himself up. He rubs the accumulated bruises on his arms. Firefist has been going easy on him since that first day of training. Shudo isn't complaining. He appreciates all his ribs being intact, thank you very much, but he's also frustrated. To be handled with kitty gloves like this hurts his pride. Banshee, status report? The freckle-faced man asks. She stops for a moment and shakes her head. Nothing yet, Captain. Firefist w's his head to Wallace on the starboard. We're still on course? Yes, the man, blue-skinned and strong-jawed, says. He's one of the fishmen mentioned in Shudo's schoolbooks, the largest group of people to ever been recorded having the same quirk mutation of adopting marine features and abilities. It's fascinating seeing one in the flesh. How's your fire control going? Firefist now asks Shudo as he climbs up to sit on the railings without any semblance of fear. Shudo doesn't have that kind of seasoned sailor bravery, so he settles on sitting on the floor next to him instead. Shudo drinks his bottled water and frowns. It's getting there. His mentor sighs. I'll be frank here, he says seriously, we're dealing with a ship that's carrying probably a couple dozen tons of high-grade cane. We can't afford any collateral today. The ship should be intact for the local officials to inspect. Is he insinuating what I think he is? Shudo's eyes widen. He balls his fists, anger burning in his chest. I want to fight. Shudo puts his foot down. There's no way he's going to miss this opportunity. He's fought a villain without permission once. What's one more time? Firefist tilts his head, looking at him confusedly. Of course you will. You'll be with Deuce, handling the rear. We went over this at the meeting yesterday. Shudo's cheeks burn. Oh. Let's show them what we're made of. The flame hero grins, shining like a beacon in the soft morning light. The fire side of us, anyway. Wouldn't ice be more effective? Shudo tries, but his mentor only looks at him as if it was the stupidest thing he has ever said. Have you seen that really old American movie? Ice and ships don't mix, he says, which Shudo thinks is a straight-faced lie. Midoriya told him about a high-ranking Marine with an ice quirk once. They're in range. Banshee suddenly shouts loud enough for the entire ship to hear. 10 minutes. You heard her. Firefist roars. Get ready, men. The crew moves to man the sails and ready the weapons with the ease of a well-oiled machine. Shudo slots himself into position, like a gear that's always meant to be there. Wallace keeps them on course, inching closer to Joker's ship, until Banshee lifts one hand, signaling to stop. The ship slows to a gentle float. They don't lower the anchors to keep their maneuverability, instead keeping close watch on the waves which seem steady. All right. Shudo hears Saber cry from the crow's nest. He looks up to see him whipping around a lasso in the air, before throwing it with deadly accuracy forward. The specialty rope expands in length as it flies, creating a perfect circle floating in the water, circling their oblivious target. They spotted us! Deuce shouts, seeing the villains panic through his mask. Ace! Fire Fist wastes no time grasping Lasso's straight line. Flame fence! Fire bursts from his hands and onto the rope, circling Joker's ship in a flaming cage. The rope was made from a WhatIf solid oil thing, courtesy of Carmen's quirk, grease control and Cornelia's craftsmanship, able to feed the flames for 24 hours. The enemy ship stops propelling backwards, realizing they would be burnt to crisp just in time, though Shudo doubts Fire Fist would let that happen. Escape impossible, they turn to fire at the Spadil instead. Oh no, you won't. Cornelia shoots her bazooka straight at one cannonball, exploding it in midair. The rest are stopped by Wallace's efficient hydrokinesis. The Spadil starts firing back. In accordance to last night's meeting, Finamore and Dogya are the ones tasked with manning the cannons. Shudo watches as their cannons fly, a few hitting just shy of Joker's ship, jostling the waters and making them panic. Most of the Spadil's cannons appear to hit their mark though, before disappearing like the illusions they are. That's Finamore's Duplimirage quirk at work, succeeding in confusing the enemy's defenders. Shudo watches as Saber follows Fire Fist jumping down onto Striker, Fire Fist's small, custom-made, flame-powered striking boat. Hey kid! Deuce calls, snapping Shudo's overwhelmed brain to adapt to the action. Let's go. Right. He says, following the masked man down the submarine hatch, where Cornelia's proudest creation hangs, ready to be. As they run in, the blue-haired man slaps a red button on the wall, opening the floor below the vehicle. Shudo enters the submarine for the second time in his life, heart still thumping as erratically as the first time he gets on, and even learned how to drive the sleek, flame-painted steel contraption at last night's ambush rehearsal. Deuce gets on board a second later. Swiftly but with trembling hands, Shudo pushes a button that releases the ropes. He makes sure they have fully submerged before he pushes another one that closes the ship's flooring once more. They propel through the water, leaving a flurry of bubbles in their wake. Shudo focuses on wading through the fallen cannonballs, while Deuce takes his time strapping a variety of guns to his back. Let's review the signals, Deuce says. What signals? The older man ignores him. If I lift one hand up, it's stop. 2 means burn this person. That's easy enough. Shudo steers them out of the way of a particularly big debris. Thankfully, the stern is clear of falling explosives. They climb out the sub stealthily after sticking it onto the hull. The chaos from the front is loud, but the back of the ship stays silent, abandoned as the Joker's crew try to keep up with Fire Fist's burning fists and Saber's sharp limbs. Deducing this, Deuce shoots one of his guns up, a grappling hook for them to climb up with minimal sound. Oh, there's actually one poor Joe keeping watch, knife fingers out to slice the ropes. But Deuce is faster, gripping his wrist and breaking his other arm in one swift motion, then proceeds to put him in a chokehold. The guy struggles for a few seconds as Shudo pulls himself up the ship. He notices Deuce wobbling onto his feet, the unconscious guy dropped from his slack grip. Ugh, managed to peek into his mind a bit, he says, then presses the device on his ear to announce his findings to the entire Spadil crew. There's 2 members of Joker's Familia here, the rest are grunts. The drags are below deck as we have expected. I know the way there. Shudo and I'll be going first. We're right behind ya, just gotta finish up, sheet. Saber's voice in Shudo's ears is cut. Then Banshee's present mic-level shriek reverberated through the entire ship, followed by a loud splash and a bunch of guys screaming, "Boss? Guess that takes care of that," deadpans Fire Fist. Go ahead, Deuce. We'll be right there in a bit. Deuce drags Shudo through a door and a hatch, then long hallways which are oddly empty. The masked man stops after a turn, where before a gigantic, metal door stands a woman in a skimpy purple-maid getup, a lit cigarette in her mouth and gun-shaped forearms aimed at their heads. She shoots. Both heroes dive to the floor. 2 bullets fly past their heads, more she continues to shoot at them. Shudo wishes he's allowed to put up an ice shield. They have cleared the entire area, making it impossible to find cover. He's quick enough to roll over and dodge the rounds, until a bullet grazes his cheekbone as he stands. "Stop!" Deuce shouts. "I need you to stop this, please." Shudo wonders if he has gone insane. Amazingly, the shooting stops. "You need me?" the woman asks hopefully. She looks vulnerable for a moment, before she grits her teeth and is back to aiming resolutely at Deuce, who has both his hands up, and Shudo, who feels he must do something. 2 hands up, Shudo realizes. The message is clear. He's explicitly banned from summoning flaming pillars, but Shudo doubts Fire Fist would mind a couple of scorch marks on the floor. He sends a wave of fire through his foot, harmless flames he can snuff out with his boots later. He ups the intensity when it hits her, setting her shoes aflame. The second her attention diverts, it's over. Shudo catches Deuce's body before it hits the floor. The woman blinks a few times before snuffing out her shoes and cigarette. Shudo stomps over the leftover embers. "Neat quirk," Deuce says in the woman's body, staring down at his gun for arms. "Baby 5. A couple dozen grunts rushes in. Shudo realizes this must have been their strategy, luring them to the maid woman then closing off their exit. He looks to her for guidance. Deuce points her gun hands at the newcomers. Several awkward seconds pass as he fails to shoot. "Gotta figure this out first," he sighs. Pretty dark eyes turn to Shudo. "Hold them off, I'll watch my body," Deuce decides. Shudo has no problem with that. He charges at the confused grunts, lighting his fist solid hot and burning their shoes when his leg swipes low. Being beat up by Fire Fist teaches him how to be sneaky, that going for underhanded tricks and vulnerable spots of the human body doesn't necessarily make him dishonorable, just less injured. "There is no honor in a fight," his mentor likes to say. He usually follows that sentence with, "but there is some in not running away," which Shudo also agrees with, to a degree. He's doing okay until a fallen guy gets up and punches him from behind. Shudo dodges too late. The room spins as the side of his head is hit. Lucky shot. He hisses between gritted teeth. Oh, how he misses being able to freeze his opponents in place. He staggers but doesn't fall. The guy goes in for another brass-knuckled punch and is stopped by a steel net to the face. A brief glance tells Shudo that Deuce has finally worked out the woman's quirk. Her hands have turned normal and equipped with the guns he brought from the sub. Shudo ignores his head wound and keeps fighting. Deuce assists. Fire Fist and Saber arrives just in time to see Shudo landing a appealing flaming drop kick to the last grunt's crotch. "Ouch," Saber cringes, then turns to Deuce and whistled. "Dude, you're smoking." My mouth tastes like ashes," he whines. "Just handcuff me." She has a pretty powerful weapons quirk, use the big ones. "I brought one in my coat." "Of course you did," Fire Fist says with a smile. His second in command is always prepared. Saber moves to do just that, then holds the woman's body as Deuce's consciousness returns to his own. Fire Fist helps him up. The combination is 102340, the blue-haired man says, pointing to the steel door. Saber turns a blade hand back to flesh and fiddles with the lock instead. The masked man moves to help him. Suddenly dizzy, Shudo sits on a particularly scorched part of the floor. The world turns and he's seeing double. 2 Fire Fists crouch down in front of him, inspecting the dripping gash on the side of his head. "Sheet. Deuce, he's bleeding." "Shudo. Don't you dare black out." "Shudo. Shudo." He blacks out. "I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not Kane, Trafalgar." Shudo hears Deuce stress somewhere beyond the darkness. The UA student slowly opens his eyes to a room he's only been in once or twice before, but only in passing, laden with fire-themed accessories, Fire Fists. "Hey, you're awake," his mentor says, a tired smile on his face. "How many fingers am I holding?" With the constant throbbing of his head, Shudo slips into Japanese. "2," he says, which is the correct answer. What crack is Do smoking? He asks blearily. Fire Fist whispers a laugh and indulges Shuto in his mother tongue. No, he tested a sample of Joker's drags in our mini-lab. Now he's mad at my cousin for giving us misleading info. He gestures to the flat-screen monitor spanning the adjacent wall. The equipment usually used for the Whitebeard's fortnightly late-night gaming tournaments, according to Saber anyway, Shuto hasn't joined any, is now being used for a video call. The man on screen appears to be a doctor with his white coat, but unlike any other doctor Shuto has ever seen, has chosen to pair it with a yellow hoodie and a fluffy spotted hat. He looks exhausted, eyes heavily burdened with dark circles stark against his brown skin. I said, and I quote, Joker is developing a new drag, and he's been looking into Kane for inspiration, among others, he says, voice a smooth but exasperated drawl. He sighs then taps tattooed fingers onto his chin. I guess Caesar has finished the formula. Should I send the sample to you? Firefist chimes in. Yeah, get Herudia to do it, the man says. Smokeria is competent, but if we wait for the Marines, it'll take too long. His cousin nods. I got Cha, he says, but where are you again? I'm in Dash. Law ye fucker. Me arm. A gruff voice interrupts. Dr. Man steps back and turns to a red-headed man lying on a surgical bed, his right arm missing. It all clicks for Shuto. Law Trafalgar. He remembers last winter, when he caught Midoriya researching doctors for All Might, and saw the name Law Trafalgar in the #1 spot. Best surgeon in the world, Midoriya had explained, because of his ridiculously suited quirk. Unfortunately, he is booked every other day with the wait list spanning the next 3 years. He only does 1 surgery a day, as per the anti-exploitation law they had to write down just for him. Outside of that, he only does favors for friends and family. This, Shuto realizes, seems to be one of them. Law sighs. As you can see, I'm in Scotland right now for Eustacia's checkup. Send it to his Supernova Hero Agency branch, I'll be staying in town for a while. Firefist snickers. F-ed up your arm again, kid? The redhead would have lunged towards the camera if Law didn't have the precognition to cuff his remaining limbs on the bed. I'll up your arm, you big monkey dash. He did. He also owes me for this, Law interrupts, glaring pointedly at his patient. He ends the video call. Do sighs. I'll go package a sample, he says, then exits the room without even so much of a glance or wait for his commander's dismissal. To say Shuto is surprised is an understatement. How bad is this drag? He asks, getting up from the bed. The UA student has never seen Deuce this distraught. Very, Firefist says in English this time. He steadies Shuto with one arm and leans on a nearby table. Law met Caesar, the scientist responsible, almost a decade ago at an international seminar. Back then, Caesar was government-sanctioned and presented his research on quirk-enhancing drags. They talked. He wanted Law's help on something, so he invited him to his lab, he says. Long story short, my dear cousin discovered that he's actually manufacturing quirk-inducing drags for Joker to sell in the black market. Shuto frowns. Quirk-inducing? Everyone in his class knows about Ares' quirk being used to produce quirk-annulling bullets by the Mafia back in their first year, but this is the first time he hears of the opposite. Basically, it mutates the genes to force the body to manifest a quirk. It's highly sought out by the quirkless community and people who are dissatisfied with their existing quirk, explains Firefist. It's a volatile substance. The process is painful and has dimming side effects. Moreover, only 1 out of 10 users actually manifests a quirk. They are strong quirks though, that's why people still seek them out. But that was years ago, right? But if Caesar is still producing drags, that means he wasn't caught. He was, his mentor says. Law alerted local authorities and Caesar's lab was raided. He was sentenced to life in prison for illegal drag manufacturing and human experimentation. But 2 years ago, Joker broke him out. No one knows where Caesar is now. So if we catch Joker, we catch Caesar, Shuto deduces. Firefist rubs his face. It'd actually be easier to catch Caesar than Joker. Shuto thinks it over. That makes sense. Joker is an underworld codename, we'd have to figure out his identity first. Firefist blinks at him. I forget you're new, he says, smacking his forehead with his palm. We do know Joker's ID, since he's coincidentally Law's adopted uncle. It's who he is that makes it hard for us to apprehend him. It's Shudo's turn to double take. His uncle? It's a long story dash. Banshee opens the door a bit and pokes her head inside the room. Ace, the Marines are here. Captain Smoker would like to speak to you. The flame hero nods. He beckons Shudo to come with and leads them out to the deck. Gusts of wind assaults them as soon as they arrive. Dark clouds curdle in the sky and the air is filled with petrichor. The sun is nowhere to be seen, making it hard to gauge how long has passed since Shudo had passed out. Judging by the myriad of Joker's men in cuffs, the rest of the crew has used the time they had wisely. An enormous warship is anchored just a ways off the Spadil, G5 emblazoned on its hull. At least 100 Marines stands ready on their deck and about 15 on the Spadils. A man with slicked back white hair and way too many cigars on his mouth, obviously their leader, stands in front, hands crossed over bare chest. He doesn't seem to mind the cold, his jacket draped over his shoulders. Port gas, he says, so curt it is barely above a grunt. Smoker, Fire Fist acknowledges. They talked briefly about moving the drags and prisoners before ordering their subordinates to work. Since he is injured, Shudo is forbidden from helping. Instead, he sits on a barrel next to Skull, who is overseeing the move while Fire Fist and Deuce chats the more classified information with the captain and his second-in-command, a girl in a pink coat, in another room. Shudo observes the men in marine white working seamlessly with the ones in hero gear. They look practiced, routine. Does the 2nd Division work with Smoker's team a lot? He asks. Skull nods. Definitely. They're our go-to squad for American handoffs. The man answers, eyes never leaving the bustling Marines and heroes. We trust them because Ace has known the captain for a little bit longer. They first met when Boss was still in school and Smoker was still a pro hero. He was a pro and left? The smoke hero, White Chase, Skull says. Have you heard of the Alabasta incident? Shudo is surprised to find that he does. Yeah, he says. He remembers Yayarozu doing an essay on it as her example of a local villain captured in foreign soil. Something about an American villain caught before he can overthrow the Egyptian government. It happened 3 years ago, right? Yes. Ace was a second year like you back then. He was on vacation with his brothers in Egypt, visiting a friend of Luffy's. When Sheet went down, Skull says. Smoker was credited for the capture of the villain, Crocodile, but he openly refused his accolades, saying he wasn't the one who defeated him. His hero agency wanted to save face and sent the lie to the media anyway. Smoker was furious and quit. Yayarosa's essay had ended with a brief description of the media circus. Shudo wonders how deep the cover-up had run if his smartest classmate couldn't dig up anything more than surface information. But if he didn't beat him, who did? Portgas and his brothers did, especially the one with the straw hat, a gruff voice answers. Shudo turns his head and sees the higher-ups meeting has ended. The captain studies him. Shudo stares back. He manages to ignore the whiffs of smoke blown by the wind to his face. The Marine stays silent, then turns to his subordinates. Men, set course to HQ, he shouts. Yes, sir, came the chorus of salutes. Fire Fist lazily copies them. The lower half of Smoker's body disperses into smoke before he flies onto his ship. The rest of the Marines walk as a unit, following their leader. Before long, both the warship and Joker's confiscated ship are gone from the horizon, leaving the piece of Spadil alone in that part of the Atlantic Ocean. Fire Fist breaks the comfortable silence. Good job, everyone, he bellows. Let's celebrate. Bring out the booze. Everyone cheers. Shudo joins in, even though he has no plans breaking the law via underage drinking. His smile turns into a carefree grin as he sees the joy on his crewmates' faces. A whole sense of accomplishment bubbles in his chest. It threatens to overflow when his mentor puts an arm around his shoulder, his face shining with pride. Today is a great day, Shudo decides as Fire Fist guides him into the heart of the party. He can't wait to jot the day's events down on his internship report sheet. They are 16 hours en route to Batarilla when the distress call comes in. Boss, we have a code red, Cornelia says. Fire Fist halts his and Shudo's morning sparring session, the cheery expression on his face souring instantly. It's Smoker. The UA student follows everyone, sans Carmen, who is in the middle of fixing lunch, into the communication/navigation room, where Skull is clicking frantically on a computer while Wallace grimly writes down coordinates. Half the walls are adorned with maps, while the rest has monitors mounted akin to a surveillance room. There are several columns of emergency lights serving as a divider, with various names scribbled on each dark plaque underneath them. One light, titled Smoker Yusum 2, glows an ominous red. We just received the signal, but there's something weird about it. We got the coordinates, but the satellite image shows nothing there, no ship, no island, nothing, says Wallace. The spot is still in US waters. It would take about half a day at full speed to get there. Set the course, Fire Fist orders. What about the cargo? Skull eyes a dead monitor. We've lost both the tracker Cornelia put on Baby 5 and the one on one of the drag crates. Before it blinked out, it stayed stagnant with Captain Smoker's pin for 42 minutes. The captain's location still hasn't changed. Suddenly, the biggest monitor blinks from displaying the surrounding map to a phone icon with Smoker's plaque underneath it. A ringing sound reverberates through the room. Skull pushes a button. Fire Fist-san, that is G5NC. Tashiji, a strained female voice comes through despite howling wind and static. The cargo has compromised and Smo-san is down. We include backup. Proceed on to Punk.Zard with caution. Vice.Myral Virgo is a traitor. Connect the mic. Fire Fist says, Skull flicking SWs to do so. The flame hero grabs a station communicator and speaks into it. Tashiji, this is Fire Fist. Are your men okay? Fine. But we don't have manpower to chase aft. Myral. He left half an hour. Don't pursue, I'm sending out an alert. We'll come and get you, Fire Fist says. A gruff coughing and a Smoker-sen goes through the speakers. When the line sounds again, it's in the Marine captain's distinctive baritone. Porcus, Caesar on the island, that beat, took him. Fire Fist's eyes widen. In the back, Deuce curses. Sheet. I'll take care of everything, Chase. You sit tight, all right? The injured man's response to the hero's assurance is grunt before the call cuts. There is a split second of silence before Fire Fist starts listing orders. Deuce. Alert the International Hero Association. Saber, tell Gramps. Skull, send an update to Whitebeard. Banshee, call Maharal back home, say we're taking a detour. Ask him to use his quirk, maybe he can predict the trader's destination. Cornelia, see if you can see what's wrong with the satellite pics, there's supposed to be an island there. Finnemore and Dogya help Wallace with the ship. Use one of the boosters, we can spare one. Also tell Carmen to prep hot meals for 100 men. The wind sounded crazy there, it must be cold. The Marines will need it. Shuto, you're coming with me. The boy stands straighter at the mention of his name, heterochromatic eyes going from dazed and overwhelmed to the picture of focus. Let's go, we're ringing law again. They wake the surgeon from what looks like a much-needed sleep. His eyes are red-rimmed, eye bags somehow more pronounced than before. This better be good, Asia, he drawls, dragging his syllables to absurd lengths. I have surgery in an hour. Can you reschedule? 'Cause I have a feeling you'd want to be involved in this op. Law frowns. I can, since the patient's cancer is dormant. What is it? Shudo watches as his mentor relays today's information to his cousin. By the end of the hero's explanation, all trace of sleep is gone from the surgeon's face. F-. So that's who it was, that son of a beach. His fists are clenched, tension in every line of his body. Asia, Virgo is definitely the first Corazon. The one you said you never met because he's been undercover forever, right? I gathered. Law nods. He looks down thoughtfully. For obvious reasons, he can't go back to the US. Most likely, he's heading for Europe, where Joker's influence is the greatest. With everyone on alert like this, he wouldn't dare incriminate his boss by blatantly visiting him in Spain. He'd just send Baby and Buffalo to fly and report ahead, if he hasn't already. He's going to a hideout. He needs to stash Caesar somewhere, Firefist says. Yes, but there's no point in guessing where it would be. Once they are within 4,000 kilometers of Barcelona, Joker would know and could easily help them disappear. He has more than enough resources to manage that. It's best to catch them before it gets to that. We can't make it there that fast, the Flame Hero says. We need another agency to take the case. They can't, says a rough voice. A familiar redhead once again pops on screen, his mane wild and metal arm gleaming. Shudo didn't get a good look at him last time, the one-armed man being strapped down in the background, but now, upright and in front, he makes quite an intimidating sight. Built like a brick shithouse, his upper body is marked with long, jagged scars. He looks larger than life next to the lean and shorter Dr. Trafalgar. Kid waves his prosthetic in front of the camera. Shudo can see a flash of a digital screen on the middle of his inner forearm. Comic book villain BSDRD's smarter than that. There's a tax everywhere from England to Egypt. The cherry on top, a big-ass landslide in Rome. Beach sup me but about it. The big bosses re-even calling me, and I'm on sick leave. We still need someone to stall Virgo, Law insists. Asia, what about Jinbe? Sun Agency's territory is the Pacific, you know that. Firefist points out. But if you need a wave, Pops can dash. The redhead lunges towards the camera so quick, Shudo thought he would jump out of the screen. He roars, absolutely not ya f-dash. Tsunamis are out of the question. Maybe if the old man's young and springy and in person, but he's not quacking anything that far away. The surgeon yanks back his friend. Eustacia's right, Asia. That was reckless to suggest, Law adds. Besides, Whitebeard would never agree to it. The freckled hero looks down sheepishly, one hand rubbing the back of his neck. Sorry. An idea creeps up Shudo's mind and, before he can stop it, it tumbles out of his mouth. What about Uncle Dragon? Ya Uncle Wa now? Realizing he has spoken, Shudo decides to play it cool. Firefist's uncle, he has a wind quirk, the boy tries to explain. Someone with a wind quirk can blow their sails the other way. Someone like Yurashi, Shudo thinks, would be ideal. That old coot has been retired forever. Kid crosses his arms and sneers, swapped Cape's fair monkey suits. Uncle Dragon isn't that old. Firefist feels the need to defend, not so much because the man is Luffy's father, he's sheet, but because Sabo sings him praises all the time. At the end of the day, someone Sabo approved can't possibly be a bad person. He would make a great prime minister. He still has a license and he's the only wind user I know powerful enough to pull this off. Asia, call your brother now. There's a light, fluttery feeling in Shudo's chest, hearing his suggestion approved. His mentor just sighs but nods anyway. He pulls out his phone and shoots a text. The ding. Reply notification is instantaneous. He looks back at the video call screen and raises an eyebrow. Great, we get Revolution on board. What then? Blow the trash to the Marines. No, Law decides. This scenario is half the reason why I have a provisional hero license. If Virgo's going down, I want to be the one to kick him off the cliff and watch him as he breaks every bone in his body. Gray eyes blazing, suddenly the lethargic doctor looks lethal. They can have the first Corazon after I'm done with him. Shudo sits on Firefist's bed, a thick plastic file on a pillow and a paper in his hand. The room smells like green onions and chicken, as is the entire ship, with the kitchen kept busy for too many hours. He has grabbed a quick lunch before getting on to reading the Joker intel file, assigned by Law and graciously lent by Firefist. This file doesn't leave this room, his mentor had said. Even Skull hasn't read this, only Deuce and I. Law's really picky at sharing what he knows. While Shudo doesn't find the surgeon's vengeance plan to be very heroic, he was outranked and outvoted by the two actual pro-heroes in the conversation, both who immediately volunteered themselves to be part of the strike team. Hey intern, what's your quirk? Kid had asked. Shudo had blinked. Half cold, half hot. I make fire and ice. With his words, he had raised each forearm, left covered in flames and right wrapped in frost. Asia, you have a mini blue pheasant on your ship, Law had deadpanned. Your name is Shudo, right? You're in. The surgeon had ignored his mentor's protest that no Law, Shudo isn't allowed to use his ice in this internship with a glare, then moving on to listing other names to join their team. Killer Queen, Draken, Koala and Crow had been some of the names mentioned. The final strike team members' profiles had been linked for Shudo to read password protected from Skull's online drive. As always, they are all very detailed in a way Shudo is sure Midoriya would commit a crime for. He had made a quick read of them, since it's somehow still much shorter than the villain intel. The rock and roll hero, Killer Queen is Kid's second in command, a tall guy with ridiculously long blonde hair whose quirk spinner allows him to assign anything, including himself, an axis and have it spin for any length of time. Another blonde with much shorter hair and a scar over one eye, that reminds Shudo too much of his own, is Draken, who turns out to be Firefist's adopted brother. Sabo Portgas heads the London-based Revolution Hero Agency after its founder changed careers to politics. His quirk, Dragon, is pretty much the same as Uraraka and Tsuyu's previous mentor, Ryukyu. Koala, whose real name is curiously also Koala, is noted to be Sabo's long-term girlfriend for 7 years and counting. She is a devastating martial artist, especially coupled with her quirk, Hydro Push. Both her and Crow also work at Revolution. Crow is a big, bald guy made out of his namesake animal, thanks to his quirk, misleadingly titled Murder. He, along with Draken, will also serve as transport for the operation. Firefist's Uncle Dragon, Revolution, had once been England's #1 hero for 3 consecutive years before he retired. His quirk Wind Matter works the same way as the Flame Heroes, but at a much larger scale because it's easier to move air than to ignite atoms, as Skull had theorized. Officially, the one in charge of the operation is the heavy metal hero, Captain Kidd, quirk, Magnet. The real mastermind is obviously Dr. Law Trafalgar, whose quirk details had seemed very tempting to forward to his green-haired friend. Operation looks very versatile. Shudo could imagine the battle applications already. If he wasn't such a great doctor, the man could have made one hell of a hero. He has proven to be great at it already, Shudo thinks, as he finishes reading the 10th page of the Joker intel. There's 55 more to go. Joker, real name Doflamingo Don Quixote, has divided his crime family into armies named after card suites, then hand-picked officers for each. The doctor had listed everything from their names, quirks to blood type, their role in the organization, where they live and operate, their life and medical history, analysis of their psychology, before ending it with concise bullet points of strengths and weaknesses. Shudo crams everything into his brain like it's exam season. He has a brief flashback to being smacked around the training mat during one of Endeavor's information-retaining training drills, but waves it off and trudges along. Too much rested on this op to be successful. The student finds many interesting points, like how Joker was a local reality TV star turned leader of a front-runner political party for the steadily approaching Spain general elections. How the daughter of current prime minister is dating him. How said daughter, named Viola, has a profile in those stack of files, going by Violet, with a quirk description that boggles Shudo's mind. The ability to see everything in a 4,000 kilometers radius, and to peek into someone's mind with a touch of foreheads. Shudo wonders if she knows of Law's plans, before deciding that of course she does. The fact that she is letting him speaks volumes of another problem. Doflamingo and his tendency to never take off his funky pink sunglasses aside, Joker's organization has plenty of colorful characters. Baby 5 who has a primal need to be useful, Senor Pink who dresses like a baby due to a tragic backstory, among others. There's a chance some officers would be dispatched to retrieve the cargo, Firefist had said, so be on guard. They had requested the file on Virgo from the Flame Hero's Gramps, which plainly states a moderate strength enhancement quirk. Shudo's pretty sure there's more to it than that. All that said, what the boy is most worried about is Joker's quirk, registered innocently and played out on TV as strings, but detailed by Law as more of a puppeteering kind. His strings lets him to have absolute control of a person's body. The maximum number of people he can control is unknown. If that's not overpowered enough, the surgeon also had written, it has the ability to slice through anything and by attaching his strings to clouds, he can fly with it. What the hell? Push down your fear and panic, Aizawa-sensei's voice echoes in his mind. Assess the situation calmly and rationally. So Shudo takes a deep breath, sprawls himself on the bed, and begins to read the last section, titled Associates. A cold feeling sinks into his stomach as he notices the name attached to the first bullet point from the many lectures at school, a top 3 internationally wanted villain, Kaido. Not for the first time, Shudo is thankful for his quirk. Tragic backstory aside, his father was really onto something with this eugenic stuff. I hate you, Deuce says, shedding the thick winter jacket he has worn for the last 30 minutes. The rest of the crew does the same, unintelligibly groaning along the way. Immune to the drastically changing temperatures, Shudo stands perfectly content in his hero costume. The 6 pro heroes on deck have long given up on wearing theirs. The first heatwave rolled in 3 hours ago and caused them to strip to everyday clothes. The snowstorm that comes not long after made them pull out their puffiest coats. The ever-changing weather even forced the ever-shirtless Fire Fist to drag a black trench coat up and back into the crow's nest. Shudo has seen it in his mentor's room before, one stormy night when they discuss support items animatedly until sunrise. It's made of a special fabric meant for absorbing and keeping heat in, perfect for Fire Fist's quirk, which turns out needed a starting warmth to ignite anything. Since he naturally runs hot, mild cold weather doesn't bother him, but sub-zero temperatures is a different ballpark entirely. Shudo can see the hero's freckled arm, now bare, waving a spyglass from an open window. He shouts like a child on holiday. Shudo, come see the island from up here. The boy glances at Deuce, but the man only shrugs, having no idea why their leader would request him to change his pre-planned position next to Striker. He climbs up anyway, wind whipping his hair into a peppermint nest, and takes the spyglass when offered to him. When he looks through, his eyes widen in disbelief. It looks like me. Above, the weirdly warm fog is thinner. Behind it lies a mountain island seemingly cut into 2 parts, half snowy and half bursting with magma. The sea surrounding it are either frozen solid or boiling hot. To be exact, from Shudo's vantage point, the left is cold, the right blazing, like staring at a mirror. Daya think there's an island made entirely out of fire like me? Or is it just a you thing, to have a you island? The boy smiles slightly, feeling cheeky. It must be a Shudo thing. Besides, he thinks, if there were such island, my father would have claimed it already. Endeavor Island. Doesn't sound too terrible. Oblivious of Shudo's spiraling thoughts, Fire Fist chuckles. With a few effortless movements, he dangles himself out the secluded tower, shouting like a maniac. Land ho! Shudo Island is on sight, guys. Boss, can't we do something about this fog? Banshee asks, eager to blow it away with her voice. Fire Fist climbs down halfway, then jumps to the rest. Shudo follows his example, smiling as his landing sticks. Nah, save your strength for the terrain. We're turning north anyways, so it won't even matter. Right, Wallace? The fishman nods, spinning the wheel left. The distress call was made from the snowy area. Steam won't be present there. It clicks for Shudo. The fog is steam. He is a bit annoyed at himself for not realizing it sooner, too enraptured by the island's uncanny resemblance. Well, we're off. Fire Fist says, jumping into his personal boat. Shudo onboards next and unties the ropes. Deuce is in charge, don't be too hard on him. The crew waves them off. The Striker is a tight fit. Shudo sits gingerly at the base of the pointed hull while his mentor leans on the mast, feet alight, feeding the engine to life. For time's sake, they cut through Shudo Island's middle canal. Mismatched eyes stare in wonder at the unnatural union of frost and fire surrounding them. This is man-made, slips out of his mouth. Just like me, he adds, too softly for anyone else to hear. But Fire Fist isn't just anyone. Nope, he says with so much conviction, Shudo teeters into agreement. You're pretty great, kid. This is just a disaster. A big, dark shadow rushes up from the depths. Automatic, Shudo dips his right hand into the oddly lukewarm water and boils it on the spot. A dead, nasty-looking shark bobs to the surface. See? You're great, Fire Fist grins. Shudo cracks a smile. They reach the circular center bay when the pro hero says, you know what? This place makes so much sense. His intern is intrigued. What sense? The blue pheasant guy Law mentioned this morning? He was a U.S. Marine admiral with an ice quirk. He's famous for freezing an entire sea once, Firefist says. He'd probably make a good mentor for you, if you ever have any trouble with your cold side. This is that he retired, though. Shudo can't wrap his head around freezing a sea, never mind giving up a career at its peak. If when he becomes the #1 hero, he couldn't imagine quitting. Why did an admiral retire? Injuries, officially, his mentor replies. His right leg, knee down, is gone, swallowed by magma. The boy's mind correlates. This island, it's because of him. And Red Dog, that scum, Firefist sees. Gossip is, they fought over the position of Fleet Admiral, as it would inevitably be vacated by Sengoku next year. Gramps ranted a lot when that magma BSTRD won. I didn't think I'd ever stumble upon their fighting ring, but here we are. He clenches his fists. I swear, I'm not handling U.S. territories anymore when the piece of shit's in charge. He sounds like a villain, Shudo observes. He might as well be. Probably killed more innocents than half the dudes I've put behind bars altogether. Firefist spits out the next words, absolute justice? Justice my butt. A chill spreads not from the surrounding air. How can he get away with that? There's corruption high up anywhere, Shudo, his mentor says, eyes wise and steely. Societies are built upon it. Fighting it is a long and thankless endeavor. He stares far away beyond the steam and snow. When you graduate, go work under someone you know for sure is great and just. It's the only bit of freedom you can get from this hero system. Working for his father's agency has always been the default for Shudo post-graduation. Japan's current #1 hero was an awful dad, but has always been a just hero. Getting stationed there as a fresh graduate is the best-case scenario anyone could ever get in Japan. But this internship, working under Firefist while flying Whitebeard's banners, has opened Shudo's eyes. There could be more to his future than just the mold he was born and expected to grow up in. He still wants to be #1. That the boy longs so much, he is sometimes afraid he would age to be his father. Looking at the endless blue water ahead of him, does being the best in Japan even matter, in the context of the world? Would he be satisfied being the biggest fish in a small pond, now that he has seen the ocean? As he ponders, they arrive at the island's exit. The dark-haired hero tosses him his unlocked phone. Open maps and guide me, he says. Heterochromatic eyes watches blue circle marked Sabo, pulsing gently, their own red dot moving steadily several leagues away. Go northeast, Shudo instructs. There's something liberating about being able to follow the shortest possible line from point A to point B. As he speaks, the salty breeze tastes like freedom. Firefist adjusts their course slightly. Shudo glances at the phone screen's top left corner. They still have time. The phone rings in Shudo's hands, an unflattering photo of Dr. Trafalgar filling the screen. The boy swipes to answer, puts it on speaker. Asia, the targets have finally figured out a 7-hour windy storm is unnatural and somehow managed to disperse Revolution's quirk. Came the familiar drawl sounding urgent, for once. We need to strike now. You may be in position, but Shudo and I are still some ways away, Firefist protests. You're on that lil boat southwest from us, ain't ye? The heavy metal hero says. You're in me range. Get ready, I'll pull ye. Wait, kid. Shudo hold dash. The boy stumbles but manages to hug the mast. The second striker speeds into the air. A creak sounds beneath their shoes. Between the mast blocking most of his sight and the wind zipping through, Shudo catches his mentor clenching his jaw as he grits out what he assume are Portuguese curses towards the redhead. They hit the waves with a splash. Shudo takes a moment to steam the water off his body and adjust his earpiece. When he looks up, the stolen G5 warship is in sight. Law's voice is clear from Firefist's miraculously hasn't flung away phone. Internya, do it? Shudo dips his hand into the sea. The cold comes easily to him, forging a thin path of ice until it freezes all water surrounding the ship within a 5-meter radius. It's all I can do, he breathes a bit. The warship is huge. Don't worry, you did perfect, Firefist says, patting his back. Now we go through with the plan. Room. A gigantic bluish film circles around them, creating a dome with a diameter too big for Shudo's battle-ready mind to calculate at the moment. Shambles. There's a swish sound and suddenly the student isn't on Striker anymore. He lands on his feet inside what feels like an infinitely more spacious room, built in shades of gray. A startled grunt who Shudo remembers had gotten a lucky hit on their first encounter moves into a stance, fists encased in his brass knuckle quirk swinging. His own fist blazing with revenge, Shudo punches the guy in the face. Later, Shudo would be allowed to copy off the official report straight from Skull's archive, strictly for UA internship log purposes. On that day, what happened was as follows. There's a lot of screw loose, Kid says, sitting next to Law on Revolution's flying motorboat. Boats aren't supposed to be airborne, not even Revolution's, but one of their new interns has a nifty gravity-canceling quirk. Seriously, no fair. Kid wants one that makes it easy to pile on pros on a vehicle and let Crow fly it. The second monkey brother doesn't even need to spread his wings, which makes him way overpaid for this op, in the redhead's humble opinion. He twirls his fingers lazily, pulling out bolts from unassuming flooring in rooms he can feel has few to no people in them. 5 screws ready to swap fare the distraction squad here, and there. A black lacquered fingernail taps each placement on his prosthetic monitor, displaying the U.S. Marines' standard warship layout. That's me, Killer, Koala, the Red Squirt, and still waitin' fair Firefist Kid to be in range. He ignores the indignant squeak of bad die job and continues calling their positions. Crow and Gravity Girls stay in, air fair getaway. Revolution and Drakenry fair long-range support. As discussed, Firefist Takin on Caesar while Law gets the traitor. Stoic as ever and undisturbed by the winds rampage all around them, the most senior pro hero on site clears his throat and walks forward. I'm afraid I can't stay. I sense 3 ships coming fast this way. Joker has ordered reinforcements. Then ye handle 'em, Kid waves off. You know what? Take your protege with ye, having ye guys as supports overkill anyways. Me, Crow, and Gravity Girls enough. That's the smartest thing I've ever heard you say, Justicia, drawls Doctor. Oh. Kid longs to push him off the boat. So now we're just waiting for Asia. Revolution snaps his head towards the warship so abruptly, everyone turns too. Absurdly, the baby cyclone heading for the ship is gone, along with any air activity in a certain radius surrounding it. It's gone, says the old-timer, any moving AI art is being deleted. When I try to move any too close, it dissipates. They know we're here, interjects blonde-haired Scarface. La Colace. And so he does, albeit with minimal, don't order me around, grumbling. They talk blah blah blah. The second Kid feels the Fire BSDRD's boat in range, he grins. He pulls them with barely a warning. Several things happen consecutively. Revolution and Draken fly away. Firefist in turn freezes the target ship to the sea and Law suches Distraction Squad with the loose screws. Crow puts them back onto the water just in time for Gravity Girl to puke her guts out the side. Scan, says Law, pinpointing the 2 bosses in the chaotic ship. He's disappears 1, shambles, later, a sandwich of all things dropping in his place. Kid is a bit disappointed he's missing out on the main action, but the surgeon deserves to have his revenge. He takes a few metal pellets out of his corset-like top's pocket, shooting one at a jump ship fodder with his mind. Hey, Gravity Girl. He calls Koala's in turn, who lies slumped in a corner. She gets onto her feet immediately, approaching him with 2 wide eyes and round cheeks. Uravity, she corrects him plainly, like she honestly thinks Kid had misheard her introduction or some other language barrier she'd cause. In reality, the redhead just doesn't care. How about ye 0G these bad boys, I want to try something. He hands a handful to her. He feels the weight of the metals disappearing as she closes her fingers around them. When he aims one at the yellow fat chopper F, trying to escape the war zone through the sky, the pellet flies out too fast for the naked eye. Fat F goes down in less than a second. Kid locks eyes with the girl. The decision is easy. You're internine with me next semester. She beams at him. Being shambled feels weird. Ijiro hardens instinctively as he stumbles his landing, denting the metal-plated wall with his skull. The room he ends up in is empty. The enemies must have heard his crash because the boy hears their shouts filling the outside corridor. Refusing to be trapped, he wrenches the door open and runs into battle. Most of the guys he is fighting are fodder style, with simple strength enhancement or weapons quirk. He bulldozes through knife hands and big guy, gets distracted by migraine girl but manages to knock her and box shoulders heads together. As he kicks pistol eyes protruding irises, he thinks, wow, Bakugu's rubbed off on me. He hardens his back in time for what could have been a spine-shattering hit. His opponent spits blood onto the floor before going in for another swing. Ijiro ducks to avoid his massive fist. It takes him a couple more close calls to realize this emaciated skeleton dude is just big guy with his mass redistributed to his right arm only. Using the engorged limb as leverage, the boy vaults over him with questionable grace and knocks his hardened head to the back of the guy's skull. That's all of them, right? The false redhead breathes. A quick glance around tells him everyone has been knocked unconscious. He grins and begins to cuff them in Revolution Agency's specially developed capture zip ties. Lightweight, strong and quirk weakening, patented by their resident support whiz, Lindbergh. It's not the standard cuffs, but it's a good enough alternative for low-level villains. He is on his knees, done with the last of them, when something strikes him hard and makes him stumble for the second time that day. Thanks to his Bakugu-trained reflexes, he manages to re-harden his body just in time, but the assault is unrelenting and knocks him further back. With his arms in a defensive stance in front of his face, he can't even see his assailant. He grits his teeth harder with every shrapnel chipping at his skin. How about you think, for once, while you fight? Draken had scolded him after a particularly one-sided quirkless sparring session. What do you mean, sir? He hadn't not been thinking, but it hadn't been easy with a pro attacking. Because of your quirk, your first instinct is to tank everything. But why take hits you can dodge? Ijiro had nodded, used to hearing that same admonishment paraphrased from his friends and teachers. He was still working on it. His mentor had tossed him a stainless steel bottle of water. Also, you're naturally stubborn. When tanking doesn't work, you stick with it until you lose. Why is that? Why don't you change strategies? Alright, Draken sir. I'm changing it now. Ijiro thinks, then proceeds to slump to the floor. Playing dead is kind of unmanly, but he has run out of options. The barrage stops and Ijiro gets a good glance at the villain, a smoking maid with bazooka arms. Baby 5, he recalls from the briefing, is a one-woman arsenal. Metal warps and melts back into the flesh and bone of her right arm, pinching her cigarette as she exhales the smoke. He sees the opening and takes it. He leaps, goes unbreakable mid-air, then power slams the woman with his landing. She rolls out of the way. The floor crumples and gives out beneath him. She adapts faster than he does, aiming her next round down the Ijiro-sized hole. The bullets detonate on contact, now. The boy holds his unbreakable form until he's out of range, then runs away. This is so unmanly. He cries out in frustration. Retreat, regroup, slivers of Draken's many advices echo in his mind. Change your strategy. Ijiro finds an empty cabin and enters it, taking a moment to rest his head on the wall and think. She's long range, I'm close range. That's not ideal, he realizes. I need to throw something, he murmurs, or I need to get close. A surprise attack. Back in the corridor, he was the one caught off guard. The villain was smart, not giving him an inch of opportunity to attack. His earpiece crackles to life. Ijiro, are you okay? That was you with the crash, right? Koala's concern sounds through. I'm okay, he assures, but I failed to take down Baby 5, he adds, disappointment evident in his sullen tone. Don't worry about it. She's one of the tough ones, and she has her guard up since Mass Deuce apprehended her so easily last time, she says. I'm almost finished on my end. I'll help you out. Ijiro smiles. Technically, Koala is Uraraka's mentor, but both their assigned pros are so close that on occasion, they might as well be interchangeable. Once, Draken had borrowed the gravity wielder for a skybound mission, entrusting Ijiro in Koala's care. He had a lot of fun on those patrol shifts. He would love to punch people with her again. Until then, he can't just stand still. He rushes out the room and climbs a staircase. He does his best to quiet his steps, taking out any criminals he comes across with a quick chokehold and bonk to the head. He spots the maid woman at last, talking to a terrified-looking glasses alien. "She's here," the student whispers. "Your GPS says, that's right underneath." Koala sounds happy. Heads up. The ceiling collapses over glasses alien, Koala gripping the guy's head between her thighs and spins, knocking him out as they hit the floor. Startled but recovering quickly, Baby 5 aims gun hands at her. Aijuru jumps out of his hiding place. The woman spreads her tense arms, one gun pointed at him. She shoots. The hero in training won't make the same mistake again. He closes a hardened fist over the mouth of the gun before the bullet leaves the barrel, turns the other unbreakable, and slugs her in the jaw. She doesn't get back up. "Nice job." Koala stands up with a laugh, offering her palm for a high five. Aijuru ripples his skin back to normal and follows it through, beaming as red smears her gloves. She instantly frowns. "You're bleeding a lot." "I'm fine, they're just scratches," he says with a smile. "I can still fight." Aijuru refuses the urge to shrink at her calculating gaze. Chest heaving, blood trickling and costume ripped in more places than not, he looks like a mess. He doesn't feel like one, though. He feels strong. "Let's round off the down villains," she says, crouching to cuff Baby 5's no longer gun hands. "Afterwards, you can help Killer on deck." Aijuru pulls out his roll of zip ties with a sharp-toothed grin. The story behind his hero name is simple. After 2 years of submitting Killer and getting rejected each time, the young blonde hero hopeful had needed to come up with something before graduation. His best friend, Kid, had been kind of in the same boat, though it had been more due to stupidity than the lack of good names for magnetic powers. Fortunately, as seniors, they had a hero branding class. The first lesson had inspired the redhead, who quickly decided on a music theme. As always, the blonde had gotten roped into his schemes. One extensive research later, he had presented his hero name to his homeroom teacher, citing a rock song by a pre-Quark-era popular band as his sources. His teacher had sighed and let him, probably tired of his sheet. No one in the hero circle actually calls him by his full pro name. On official record, yes, but on the field, he goes by Killer. Without the feminine queen tailing it, dispatching him on sight sounds like freeing a mass murderer, which always elicits a chuckle or two within the Supernova agency. His sidekick days had been less glamorous, with tabloids questioning his naming choice and bringing up his poor background every other month. Some days when Kid is out of their shared apartment, he sits alone on their ratty old couch, wondering how the F he managed to survive all the scrutiny. All in all, Killer doesn't care. He's a top 10 Scottish hero and diamond good at his job. The name is just a means to an end, something for the news crew to refer to when they see him slice another guy open. Getting his blades approved by the Hero Commission had been a nightmare too. Without Kid's bull-headed perseverance, they might have never gotten their licenses. Over his 3 years in hero school, the blonde has perfected his fighting style to not manslaughter level. Often he doesn't use his blades at all, the momentum from his somersaults enough to down the average criminal. In close combat, all he has to do is touch a guy's belt to have him spin until he pukes. Slashing is still fun, though, he thinks as he downs another animal mutant cork holder. Why are they so many? He unseats a knife and throws it at a retreating green-haired bird lady. He can't let this one get away after the fat yellow one did. Kid had to shoot him down onto the ship's glacial base. So far, no one has escaped them, and Killer would like to keep it that way. A shiver trickles down his spine when the bird lady freezes the blade harmlessly inside a snowball. Something clicks inside the hero's mind. Monet, the green-haired woman with a powerful snow quirk. The air grows cold with a brewing snowstorm. Killer can take down an airborne enemy just fine, but elemental quirks are just not his forte. He doubts he could apprehend someone who has both while fending off the dozens of mutants remaining. Everyone updating intel, he speaks into their comms. The villain Monet has 2 quirks, snow and some kind of bird mutation. She flies. Is Fire Fist available? I need backup, it's getting chilly out here. Sorry, kill, the clown has me busy, says the flame hero. A calm voice he does not recognize speaks up. I have fire powers. Fire Fists in turn deduces killer. He cuts down another guy, then looks up at the ominously curling black clouds. Come up on deck. She's all yours. Shudo arrives on deck to a cold winter night. The sky has turned dark with clouds blocking the sun, heavy snowfall pelting wood and water. A long-haired blonde man, Killer Queen, he recognizes from the briefing files, is fighting through the chill, adrenaline fueling every slash towards the persistent animal-corked villains. The boy touches the railing and steams off the collected snowfall. Killer Queen jerks to him in surprise for a split second before continuing his job. He moves a bit easier with the added warmth, but in this blizzard, it won't be long until the buildup gets replenished. Mismatched eyes catch a movement between the clouds, powerful flaps of wings keeping a bird-like figure afloat. Neither his fire nor ice could reach that height. He needs to lure her down. A challenge. Shudo waves his arm and sends his biggest burst of flame, blanketing the air with fire not quite his hottest but just enough to turn the falling snowflakes into harmless lukewarm water. The villain zooms down and snowflakes become snowball, size ranging from the tennis kind to the basket kind as she draws nearer. They are curiously rabbit-shaped. Shudo vaporizes and Killer Queen dodges. One snow bunny basketball slams onto an animal mutant's face, knocking him out instantly. The green-haired woman perches on the railing. She folds her wings and unsheathes her smile. Oh, what do we have here? Whatever species of bird her quirk is, it is certainly predatory. And I've been so excited to fight Fire Fist too. I'm your opponent, Shudo states, stance ready. You're not quite a feast yet, but you'll make a fine meal. She lunges, jaw unhinging, deadly sharp teeth piercing through Shudo's shoulder. His eyes widen as he feels muscles tearing and ripping, socket stabbed through. She is tugging. The boy grits his teeth, tears on his cheeks from the pain. His mind screams at him to do something before he loses his left arm. Desperately, he locks her neck and sets it ablaze. She lets go, screaming, head on fire. It only takes her a few seconds to put out the flames with summoned snow, but the damage has been done. Her entire face is red and melting with severe burns, hair burnt and singed in unfortunate places. Perhaps the scarred boy would have sympathized, had he not been busy putting pressure on his barely hanging arm and getting dizzy from blood loss. Even crusted with copious amount of snow to numb the pain, the villain's furious face is terrifying. She spreads her wings and unleashes her rage through the blizzard. Shudo guards his face with his functional elbow. Snow whirls all around him into a dome that isolates him in icy darkness. The surrounding cold doesn't bother Shudo, the continuous stream of red pouring down his arm is. He puts his right hand on top of the bite marks and freezes, the extent of his first aid capabilities at the moment. Lightheaded, he presses his palm onto the nearest wall. The snow melts away for more snow. And more snow. Shudo, bloody elbow deep, mutters a single word, F dashed. You alright? The boy startles at the deep voice. Killer Queens. He answers, I'm not dead, which is as good of an assessment as any. Stay that way. Koala and Red Riot have come for backup. Shudo perks up at the familiar name. Red Riot. Todoroki. You okay, man? The usually boisterous voice sounds worried. After so many days not speaking nor hearing it, Shudo does a mental double-take at the use of Japanese. A bubbly woman's voice sounds next. English, Iger. Oh, sorry, Kaizu. Shudo, she addresses, I'm going to punch the dome. It's the only warning he gets before the meters of wall to his left is blown back to pieces. Shudo stands numbly as the snow structure collapses. You! Monet hisses. The two women trade blows, menacing talons against small, open palms imbued with a powerful invisible force, pushing the air with every strike. The bird woman flies to retreat, whipping up another snow dome big enough to cover the entire deck. Koala obliterates it before it seals. The villain is livid. Shudo spots Kirishima, hardened body scratched and shivering as he downs the last of the animal-quirked foot soldiers with Killer Queen. Realizing she is fighting a losing battle, Monet suches her target. Shudo starts running. Caught off guard and off balance mid-attack, the force of her wings knocks Koala off her feet and onto the wall. Killer Queen dodges on reflex, but Kirishima doesn't realize what is happening until Snow has twisted and cocooned his body. Shudo grabs her with his injured arm before she can suffocate his classmate. He pulls out every last drop of energy to call on the hottest flame in his arsenal. She turns to him unamused as her wing elbow sizzles weakly. "This is a joke," she grits. He doesn't let go. "No, it's not." A slash and red spurts out of her back. She gasps and falls flat on her face, Killer Queen's boot stomping down on her back. The masked blonde hero sits on her and cuffs her without a word. Shudo moves to melt the snow off Kirishima, but Koala gets to him before he tries. "Rest up until Law arrives. You did a great job, leave the rest to me, okay?" The boy doesn't need to be told twice. A nice, soft mound of snow cushions his head as he sprawls, inches from the day's villain. Ace would rather melt a snow woman than deal with this annoyingly poisonous son of a beach. "I haven't been honest about my quirk. I bet Law has his own hypothesis on what it is, but judging by your face, you didn't expect this." The tall man prattles on, grinning punchably. "Not only can I move gas, I can also change its entire molecular properties into anything I please. My favorite is hydrogen chloride. Amazing, isn't it, that gas can burn you from the inside?" Law's theory was spot on. "I was just careless," the flame hero thinks as he coughs his lungs out, leaning against a table for support. After escaping a room jam-packed with sleeping gas, which had been too much of a close call for his narcoleptic self, and successfully navigating through a series of freaky mirages, the hero had finally cornered the villain inside his makeshift lab. How Caesar had managed to completely deface Smoker's cabin in under 20 hours, Ace had no idea. The freckled man had thought quick, close-range combat would be best against a scientist with reportedly zero fighting skills, gas quirk or not. But getting close only made it easier for Caesar to shove weird things into his system. The hero knows his cousin would have been the best matchup against Caesar. With his all-dictating operation, the fight could be over in seconds. Alas, occupied with decades-long vendetta, the doc had assigned him to fight this constantly monologuing madman instead. Ace sighs. "The things I do for my family." Forget his irritated skin, his lungs hurt. He needs to detox, or, as Caesar has been continuously detailing, he would fill up his respiratory system with liquid and die. With as much calm as he can muster, the freckled man dissipates his mind, unraveling the years of solidity he has trained. His body to keep, unleashing a degree burning no one should be able to contain, but he has, since he was 4. The gas and poison combusts and sizzles harmlessly inside his flame body. "I thought you might do that." Caesar smiles like something from a nightmare. Ace's fire dies, snuffed without oxygen to fuel it. The psycho does his dumb-sounding laugh. "I can pick which elements I want and which ones I don't. I was the one that killed Revolution's mighty storm. An idiot like you can't stand a chance against my quirk. Genius, as you are, there's something you don't understand about mine." Ace focuses while trying to not pass out. "You should have deleted all the oxygen in the room." He wills it and the oxygen in Caesar's lungs combusts into flames. Ace gasps for breath, chest heaving with every glorious gulp of air. Atoms interact and interchange. I can ignite myself and everything I touch. Do the math, Beach. That particular science lesson his mother had imparted had shook him in his youth. In theory, once he steps into a room, they are a part of him. "It's about time I tested that," he says. "Now I just have to emissar it to Uncle Dragon's degree," he thinks, "just in case I need to set half the world on fire someday." Ace crouches and cuffs the unconscious mad scientist. Caesar dying via slowly choking on his own blood seems fantastic. If not for the intel the scientist still needs to cough out to Interpol. The hero also isn't keen on dealing with the mountain of paperwork that would come out that scenario. He sprawls on the floor. Abs speaks into his mic. "Hey Law, you done yet?" Caesar needs medical attention. He wheezes through the tiny holes in his lungs. "Me too, I guess. We're kinda dying." The answer is immediate. "What did you do this time, Asia?" His cousin's drawl sounds disappointed, but not surprised. A flash of blue and the dark-skinned man materializes in front of the hero, looking banged up in the face but otherwise fine. He does a quick scan then pulls out his surgical kit with a sigh. He slices both of their chests open. Hold still, Law chastises when Ace squirms. The surgeon halves his neck too for good measure. The flame hero closes his eyes and thinks of happy thoughts.